Now entering Nerdist.com.
You made it weird, you made it weird, you made it weird, oh yeah. You made it weird, you made it weird, yes you did. You made it weird, oh yeah.
You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes.
What's happening, weirdos? How cool is this? Jack Johnson came into the studio to make it weird, and he was wonderful. So let's get to it. You know this part as quickly as possible. I do want to say I have some live stand-up dates coming up in Los Angeles at Largo, October 19th. Wait, is it past October 19th? No. October 19th. I don't know what month it is. October 19th, I'm going to be there doing stand-up with some wonderful guests. Always a great lineup. November 9th, I'm going to be doing a special show called Pete is Writing a Book, where I will be workshopping and reading sections of the book that I've been working on for the past couple years about spirituality. It's funny. It's a memoir. It will be entertaining and fun, and there'll be guests on that as well. And then December 7th will be another stand-up show at Largo. For tickets to those, go to largo-la.com. Hope to see you out. We have some new sponsors for this show. I want to thank our sponsors. One of them, this is All in the Family. This is HBO. It's the new show, Felipe Esparza. Translate this. I don't know if you know this, but best known for having a raw and real sensibility that's relatable to audiences everywhere, comedian Felipe Esperanza stars in his first HBO comedy special, Translate This. It's an uproarious hour of stand-up comedy featuring unconventional riffs on the immigrant experience and his everyday battles in his life. Shares stories about translating for his parents as a kid, how his father got his family from the U.S. from Mexico, and becoming a father himself while still in high school. All performed in English with Spanish peppered throughout. So please watch Translate This on HBO and HBO Latino Saturday, September 30th at 10 p.m. I also want to give a shout out to the Pete's Picks. We know the Pete's Picks. We love the Pete's Picks. I've been taking this MCT oil now in my tea in the morning, and it's really a game changer. That's why it's a Pete's Pick. It's made by our friends at Onnit, who also make Alpha Brain. And what MCT oil is, it's a coconut-based oil, which is medium-chain triglycerides. I remember I talked about this stuff with Mark Paul Gosselaar when he was on the podcast, and here I am doing it all these years later, because this is a vegan solution. It's not like people who put butter in their coffee, but it's 100% coconut sourced. It takes that fat and gives you something that sustains your appetite. I snack less, I eat less, I feel fulfilled, I feel happy. And it definitely gives my brain an extra, kind of reserve tank of fuel for creativity and focus, which is always what I'm looking for. It has a positive effect on your leptin receptors, which assist in keeping you feeling full and satisfied. And anybody that gets jittery from caffeine, such as myself, it really smooths that out and gives you a steady supply of energy throughout the day. I'm currently editing Crashing. It's taking a lot of mental and physical energy, and it's wonderful to have this on my side. In fact, I've been joking that I haven't been exercising very much. Since I've been taking MCT oil, I've been feeling more energy, and as a result, I have been exercising, going on hikes and whatnot more. So I think this is a wonderful product. That's why it's a Pete's Pick. If you want to try it, it's the same way you try Alpha Brain, which is onnit.com/weird, and you'll get 10% off. Tastes great, feels great, give it a try. Also, while you're there, pick up some Alpha Brain. This is another product that I swear by. I always have at least 4 or 5 Alpha Brains in my pocket because it's like fish food for Monogin. It's all earth-grown ingredients, helps with memory, concentration, focus. Anytime I have to do a podcast, including the one you're about to listen to, anytime I'm writing a script, anytime I'm doing stand-up, anything that involves my brain, I'm taking 3 Alpha Brain about 15 minutes before. It's not a stimulant. It's not like coffee. It doesn't give you like a jolt of jittery energy. It just gives your brain some food to run on, and I swear by it. If you want to try MCT oil or Alpha Brain, like I said, Onnit, ONNIT.com/weird. The other product that I take most days is called Charlotte's Web Hemp Oil. This is derived from the hemp plant, but it is CBD, not THC, which means it is not psychoactive. It doesn't get you stoned. It's something that you can read on, you can work on. It just is a wonderful anxiety reducer for me. Helps with headaches, aches, and pains. As I always say, stuck in a middle seat on an airplane, it's wonderful to know that I have this in my bag. It's legal in all 50 states. Like I said, it's made from hemp, but it's not the same thing as marijuana. What am I, your dad? Smoking marijuana. It just gives me a healthy, happy glow that I swear by. A little bit quicker to laugh, a little bit quicker to smile. Just helps me lighten up, and as a result, it makes me drink less, a little bit healthier, great for your brain, great for your body. If you want to try it, CBD oil, this is the only hemp oil that's grown for human consumption. Any other hemp oil you get, it's my understanding, might have been made for a belt or oil. This is only for human consumption by our friends at Stanley Brothers, who did a wonderful episode of this very podcast. If you want to try it, go to cwhemp.com/weird and use promo code KEEPITCRISPY, and you'll get 10% off. I like the Everyday Advanced or the Everyday Plus. Mint chocolate is the flavor of preference for me. We have a new sponsor, Bombfell. I know this is true for most guys. Shopping for clothes can be a total pain, shopping in general. But Bombfell is an easier way for men to get better clothes. I just signed up for this. It was fun, it was easy, and the clothes are wonderful. It's an online personal styling service that helps men find the right clothes for them. It's simple and straightforward. All you have to do is complete a questionnaire, and a dedicated personal stylist will handpick pieces specifically for you. Then, once you've seen your selections, you have 48 hours to make any changes or even cancel altogether. You're in total control, and you only pay for the clothes you keep. Plus, you have the option of receiving clothes once every 1, 2, or 3 months. It's all up to you. And because Bombfell is on your side, they don't make money if you don't find something you want to keep. I think that's awesome. I think that's really nice. They keep themselves accountable. Like I said, you sign up. It's fun. I didn't expect it to be fun, but it's fun to click around, kind of almost like taking a personality survey, but for clothing, in a fun way, in an easy way, and then they send you stuff that honestly I was surprised at how on the money they were. Best of all, we've negotiated with Bombfell to get our listeners a special offer of $25 off your first purchase when you go to bombfell.com/weird. So if you're tired of shopping for clothes the regular way, you want a little help looking a little bit better or a lot better, go to Bombfell, BOMBFELL.com/weird. Open and close. I like that. Open and close. Oh, you get it? You say it, Val.
Open and close?
Clothes.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, see?
Okay, I didn't get it.
I was reading it, so I got it, and I wanted to make sure you got it. And now that we both got it, as my mom says, we're going to hold on to it. Hope to see you October 19th. Or December 7th at Largo for stand-up. Also, November 9th. It would be great if a lot of weirdos came out. I would love to hear what you guys think about the book that I'm working on. And in the meantime, enjoy Jack Johnson, who, no surprise here, is a delight. Is a delight. Get into it. Val?
Get into it.
ZipRecruiter?
ZipRecruiter.
And in case you're wondering, yes, the air conditioner is broken.
Oh, shit. I picked the wrong day.
What are you doing? I it's funny because I'm excited to talk to you, but I don't know what your life is like. Are you busy promoting, doing press? Are you on a radio tour?
We're going straight into it, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Which is good. A lot of times you get there and you chat and you give them all your best stuff, and then all of a sudden the interview starts.
You got to record.
We can't start
I mean,
over.
that's got to be a principle of music as well. It's the riffs before you begin.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, we can get into that. Yeah. I mean, so much times, like, right when you push record, you're like, oh, damn.
It goes away.
All that good stuff is gone already.
I know directors that don't say action. They say whenever you're ready.
Right.
They just go like, go into it.
Yeah.
Like, you need something that we know that the cameras are rolling.
Yeah.
But like
maybe it's better you don't, though. I mean, even though they're rolling sometimes.
Well, that's why you're a documentarian. That's why documentaries are so amazing.
Yeah.
Is because and I know for a fact that they do tricks where they're like, the camera's not working or whatever. You know what I mean? Not to trick people into giving something they don't want to give away.
Can I just start by admitting I'm all nervous now because before before yesterday, I had never seen your show or anything, and then so you were asking if I'm doing press, and then so I was like, yeah, I'm kind of on this little run where we're running around doing little things, and so then I was like, hey, what's this deal I got to do tomorrow? And they were like, oh, this guy Pete Holmes. He has a show called Crashing. You should check it out. It's real funny. My friend Josh and Emmett that was just there.
Yeah.
So I'm tired right now because last night I stayed up like all night binge watching Crashing.
No way.
So now I'm like starstruck and all nervous.
That's amazing.
Hey, that show is amazing.
Hey, that's
like
incredible.
The funniest show I've ever seen.
No way.
I feel bad because I've watched so many episodes without my wife, and she hates when I watch stuff like without her. If she wants to,
Yes.
she likes when I watch stuff she doesn't like because it's like get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
But
for
like
sure.
I know she'll love this the whole series. So now
man.
I'm gonna have to watch like episodes 1 through 5 again just so she can catch up.
We got to get a song.
Yeah.
Season 2,
All
Jack
right.
Johnson.
Dude, I'm in.
I love the soundtrack you did for Curious George. Not that it would be the same way.
No,
I heard
wouldn't give you that.
Look, banana pancakes would apply to a lot of these,
Sure.
a lot of the moments.
Yeah, I
Pete
guess
is
the
kind of a
metaphors.
curious.
Yeah.
He is kind of a big birdie kind of guy.
He
That's
is,
like what my
definitely.
character is.
Double entendres too. There.
That I'm so tall. You mean?
No, just meaning some of the banana pancakes.
Oh, sure.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, he makes more banana pancakes in the second season, which is
really?
going to be more exciting.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, a little teaser.
No,
for
the character
for
is
fans.
amazing.
Thanks, man. It is kind of me. Did you grow up?
I was wondering. Yeah, I started wondering if it was how much of that was you, or how much was a persona or a character.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a vacation getting to be him again.
Yeah.
I'm sure you How old are you now?
42.
42. So we're similar. I'm 38. So now I'm pretending to be basically 28.
I figured out you were 38 because one of the episodes you said you were 36, and it was like 2 years ago.
One of the episodes of this show.
Yeah, because I also went last night and was like,
come on,
I
man.
listened to the one with Andy Dick.
No way.
Or like the
Good
beginning,
choice. He
and
was a
then one
good guess.
with Sarah Silverman.
Yes. Which one? There was two.
Oh, I think it might have been the second. You guys seemed
where we
like
talked about how she didn't like her special.
Yeah,
which
that was
turned
the
out to
one.
be amazing.
Yeah,
She
I
edited
didn't
it.
see it.
Has that happened to you? Have you ever thought something stunk and then you found like get real low that you think something's great, you record it? This kind of goes back to what we were just saying.
Yeah.
Then the cameras are on, or in your case, the mics are on.
Yeah. So
and
much
all
of,
the sex and magic goes away. Like it's just suddenly it's just a guy with a box of wood with strings on it.
Totally.
Right?
I mean, so many of the things you guys were talking about, they resonated because it's a lot of similar stuff.
But isn't that your job? Aren't you kind of an alchemist in that way? Like your music sounds very intimate. It really sounds like I'm at your house in the right way.
Right.
This could sound like I'm calling you unpolished.
No.
I'm saying it sounds polished and professional.
Right.
But it sounds like I'm kicking it with you, and you just kind of take out the guitar in the right way, like at that right moment in the party.
Yeah.
Not the guy that's like bringing it out too early or too late, but at that right pocket.
the right time.
And then you play, and everybody's kind of in that. You're creating a space.
No, we've done that before, especially with, I mean, the live, like whenever you try to do a live record, it's kind of similar. So nowadays we just record. I mean, technology is so easy now because we just record every show.
Is that
and
right?
Then, yeah. So now we just we put out a live record
that
last
the
year,
best?
and we just basically, the band was like, what was the best shows? We kind of thought that one in Paris seemed pretty great.
Yeah.
And then we kind of just remembered some of the good shows, and we listened through to those and picked, songs.
So it's a
from those.
compilation of a bunch of live
from
shows.
last year. Yeah,
Isn't that the best?
But that's better. I mean, just going back to your question, because I've also done the one where it's like, okay, we're going to record this show. And then it's kind of like the whole time you're just thinking in between songs, like, how was that last version?
That's what late night is. Yeah. You've done late night. You have to go out and play, and it's like, and play it now.
TV is the worst, man. It's like, I've talked to a lot of people, it throws them off too, because all of a sudden you got these cameras zooming around, and you can't help but start thinking there's like a million people behind that thing.
That's right. That's what you try
weird.
not to think.
Yeah.
But any situation,
Out-of-body
especially as an
experience.
artist, exactly out of body.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because our job is to be, especially as a musician, obviously as comedians, we're listening for that feedback all the time. But you're listening for a different kind of frequency, I have to imagine.
Yeah, sure.
It's not laughter or even clapping. And there's always the one guy offbeat.
Yeah.
It's not that. You're listening for some sort of the frequency of attention being paid.
Yeah, but laughter sometimes too. I mean,
Sure.
I love the comedy tragedy. I mean, some of my favorite musicians are able to tell a story and make you laugh your ass off, but then when they play the song, it makes you want to cry.
Yeah.
Kind of like that Kurt Vonnegut thing, you have to choose laughter or tears.
Yeah.
And he always sort of chose laughter. And I don't know, for me, it's the same. It's like in between sometimes. I mean, I want to, with the stories, you are looking for laughter. And sometimes they don't laugh. I'm no stand-up comedian like you guys, but it's like, it's funny when you tell a little thing you think is. One time, me and my friend Zach, who plays piano in the band, we thought this thing was so damn funny that we couldn't stop laughing because we were somewhere in we were in England somewhere, and he said these girls in the front, they yelled, "Jack, I want your babies." And it was a really quiet show. Like, it had been so damn quiet the whole night. And then these girls,
they don't just want to have sex with you. They want to raise your
family. They
family.
say, like, I want your babies. And for some reason, I just said, you know what? I'm not going to give them to you. And I thought that was kind of funny, but nobody laughed at all.
Yes.
And then that wasn't that funny. But then all of a sudden,
no, that is funny because it's implying that you have babies, and you're going to keep them.
Right. But
I guess the rewrite would be, I think it would be irresponsible of me to give you my children.
Yeah, that may have been better. I could have got a chuckle.
I'm not saying it's better.
I might have got a chuckle out of this guy. But the part that got me was then Zach, out of nowhere, my piano player, he's like, "Man, it's got a real Rumpelstiltskin vibe around here." Because these girls were my children.
That's right.
And I thought it was so damn funny. I couldn't compose myself for like 3 songs. I just would start the song and I would just laugh through the whole thing and have to step back from the microphone
because Rumpelstiltskin wanted her children, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless he could say her name, he would take her babies.
Yeah,
That's
and she
all.
had to spin gold and all that stuff. And then so to me, it was like the funniest thing anybody had ever said in the history of humanity. And nobody in the crowd even laughed, So I'm digressing, but the point is like, yeah, we do look for those reactions, and sometimes, like, I always tell friends, like, they'll come and see a show and they'll be like, "Oh man, it was great," or whatever, and you're like, "You should have been there last night," like, because that crowd that night, the response they're giving you, you kind of feed off of that, and like the more they give you, the more you give back.
But you don't know if it's you though,
and it's context sometimes. Like the context is the bummer. Is like you have this whole tour to compare every song to in a way. And I even heard you speaking about. Sometimes, like the room, or somebody was talking about this. Maybe it was a documentary I watched about comedians recently called "Dying Laughing." It was really interesting, and it was something about the room. It's like sometimes it takes too long for like the reaction from what you said to hit the back of the room, and then that like to get that wave back.
I think it was
towards you,
Kevin Hart.
the reverberation.
Yeah, he's talking about playing arenas.
Yeah, interesting.
I did Radio City. I opened for Chappelle, and I was performing for 7,000 people, and I was like, I don't care for this.
Yeah, I'll bet, because I mean, in the sense of like when you play a smaller room, you get that immediate response.
That's what comedy's all about. I'm not here to wait for the laugh. It really was. As a server, you can appreciate it was a wave. I was like, oh, here comes a set of laughter.
Totally.
And I guess I had to stand there in faith that the back was laughing, and it just hasn't gotten to me to sign for it yet.
It's similar.
But that whole thing of like you finding Rumpelstiltskin being hilarious, or finding a song being funny or moving or whichever, or a mix of both, you're still trying to capture that lightning in the bottle. The vibe that you're creating, which is. The compliment, I think, is a high compliment. So casual sounding.
Right.
What is your approach? Do you record everything? Are you in the studio? Or are you trying to keep it as non-studio as possible? I picture the doors open and the ocean outside.
We're trying to make it as professional as we can. That's just the best we can do. It's a 5-minute ride from the beach. It's really distracting. My brothers are constantly texting me whenever the waves get good.
Oh, really?
Like missing it and stuff.
So it's exactly what I imagined.
It's hard to get anything done in there for sure. And it's it is detached from the rest of the world. And like whenever I make a record, I've usually been away from all of this, like doing any kind of press or doing any kind of shows or being in front of cameras or microphones for long enough. Because once I finish a tour, I kind of am pretty sure I'm never going to do it again. I love it. I love playing music, but I'm like
it kills you.
And it does, and it's like on my nervous system and everything. By the end, I'm kind of like,
it's not what you got into it.
Why do I do that? Like, why do I get in front of people I don't know every night and do this? Like, and I think I'm never going to do that again. And then a year goes by, and somehow I forget all that again. And then just the whole thing of creating songs and writing, the songs are all there. And then like the idea of getting in the studio with my friends and sitting around and drinking coffee and coming up with production ideas. That's all fun. By the time we do that part of the deal, we're so far from all of this that I try to always think of like who I wrote that song for, like whose conversation sparked that song. So sometimes it'll be one of my brothers, sometimes it's one of my best friends. The love songs or my wife. It's always kind of like trying to just make her laugh around the house.
Right.
And I have to be far enough away that I can finish writing that one song for that one person. And same thing in the studio. It's kind of, somewhere in the back of your mind, people are going to hear this, but that pressure is way different.
Of course.
Because I'm so far from it that I'm just kind of trying to make a record my friends would dig.
But it's made in the small hours of time. I have to imagine. Yeah. You sound very much like, I'm making a TV show, and that's similar to albums.
Yeah.
There's seasons and there's tracks. We do 8 tracks.
For sure, yeah.
It's a little bit different, but like the show...
Do you shoot them all at once and then decide... No, because the storyline actually has to go on. So you can't sequence it after. We get to sequence after. We get to go,
that's the
this
difference.
Song works better here and there.
And then you get to put these almost like subliminal messages in the pairing of two songs.
Yeah,
I think
you guys you're making a concept record because you got to basically know
Exactly.
ahead of time that this is my sequence.
But when I'm shooting, and for me, it's not the same as touring. I've also toured, but shooting is like a lot of people touching you. Like you're always getting mic'd up. You're always
a
getting
little powder.
makeup. Exactly,
Right.
makeup and hair, and people are telling you, it's a privilege. But there's a lot of like you have to stand here, you have to do this, and it's this scene. There's not a lot of wild freedom. We
Yeah.
improvise, but there's not a lot of wild freedom.
Right.
I think what you and I probably both got into this for is the wild freedom of getting up at 3 a.m. because you have a melody in your head.
That happens a lot.
And then you're just sitting on a chair and
Yeah.
you're playing it for you.
Yeah.
And then the alchemy becomes, how do I take that? You're saying, remember the conversation you had. That's what a comedian does.
Yeah.
Mike Birbiglia said to me, I told him a joke, and he goes, try and remember the conversation you had that inspired that joke.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to start feeling jokey.
Right.
And
That's
then
such a
we're
good
just
point.
telling jokes.
That's why I close my eyes a lot, to be honest. Like
that right?
while I'm singing, it's like I truly do. Like especially on a night where I'm feeling a little off, I'll close my eyes because I'm trying to
Yes.
think back to the actual place I was or the person I was talking to when that song began, so I
Yes.
can still feel the truth in the lyrics.
Right.
It's similar with comedy. I can see it where it's
If you forget it's a great Bono quote. He goes, "I can't hit the notes if I'm not in the song."
Yeah.
And it's for me, it's the same. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's
No,
the
no.
same thing. It's like if I don't remember what's funny about it,
Yeah.
it's why I laugh a lot at my
Yeah.
own jokes because I'm trying to re-experience
Yeah.
with the audience.
Right.
And I have to imagine it feels like you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, very much so.
Especially, I guess, with some of the sadder songs or the heartbreak
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah, those
I'm
are hard to
feeling
play
that.
live sometimes.
I have to imagine.
Yeah, because we don't tend to favor them just because those are ones I feel like you write them and you put them on a record because you're feeling a certain way, but I don't usually feel like that when I'm in front of 10,000 people.
Right.
I feel like having a party and
The
kinda
adrenaline
like,
carries you
yeah.
over.
So
It's like Beck. When you see Beck, you don't want too many tracks from Sea Change.
Yeah, exactly. I love Sea Change.
I do too.
I love him.
That's my favorite Beck record.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But one of my favorite songs of yours is Cocoon. Forgive me
Oh,
for
right on.
knowing.
Thanks.
I don't know if it's annoying to reference older stuff.
Oh, thank you.
But I'm
Yeah,
a big
it's cool.
fan of
I just asked my friend as we walked
that
in. This
song.
is the coolest setup too. I spend so much time in these kind of shops because
Yeah.
I got a 13-year-old kid.
Is that right?
And 11 and 7, and so we literally go in there and we know the different types, like the ones that'll let you sit in the aisles and read, and the ones that kick you out for doing that. And stuff,
I think this
you know?
is an aisle set read.
Yeah, it seems like that kind of
It
vibe.
definitely is.
And
I-
as we were walking in, though, I was like, oh, I wonder, do you think he knows like any of my songs or anything? So thanks for referencing one off the second
Of
record.
course. Oh, no, I do. And I listened to the new record on the way in, and,
Oh, right
and
on.
it's incredible.
Cool. Thanks, man.
It's really, really nice. But you seem like a really woke person. I don't want to put the pressure on you to sound woke now. But like one of the things that I didn't realize I was relating to when I was younger, and you were younger, we were around the same age, listening to your earlier stuff was there are these little messages in there that I only fully appreciate now.
Oh, that's funny. you
Isn't
say
that
it.
fun?
Oh, yeah, it's
Tell me
cool.
what that made you think of.
Well, because for me, it's like a lot of us read these books in high school that we're supposed to read.
And you reread them.
And then I just recently, well, it was like 5 years ago maybe, I was like walking out of this bookstore and they had a back to school sale.
Yeah.
And it had like every book you're supposed to read in high school, like Catcher in the Rye and whatever, Walden, all these things. And I was like, I don't remember reading some of these, and I definitely like don't feel like I got that one. So I loaded up. I just got them all. Like
Yeah.
I just went over and got like 15 books, and I was like, all right, they're all half off. I'm getting these. And I started rereading a lot of those. And something like Catcher in the Rye, for instance, it's like, how are you supposed to know what the loss of innocence feels like when you haven't lost it?
Lost it. You're just a guy
so,
going like,
yeah.
I guess people are phonies.
Yeah, it's true. And so anyways, like the Cocoon is interesting because I don't even know if, when I wrote that song, I was watching some older friends go through a divorce. And I was like, I love them both so much as individuals, and like it was kind of me projecting onto them. I hope they can come through this feeling like they learned something and feeling like they're still whole people who can still have a life and they're not going to feel broken in half, And but when I listen to it now, that song sometimes makes me sad, where I can be at this point in my life where I can kind of know more what that must have felt like for them when they were that age.
Me too. Well, when I loved that song, I wasn't yet divorced.
Yeah.
And then when I got divorced, I certainly went back to
Yeah.
it.
Oh.
But then there are songs of yours that like, first of all, I think you're very funny. And I think
Thanks.
you have a comedian sensibility. I'll give you a specific example. What if I just left it at that? I have a specific example. You say in one of your songs, everyone laughed at a joke as if they had never really
Yeah.
heard it before.
Right.
I can't say the rest of it correctly.
Maybe they were truly amused, or maybe every word that she spoke was a bore. And then maybe it's because they had seen the previews on the TV screen.
This part is good, and it's well understood.
Yeah.
So you should laugh if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a comedian's thought.
Is it?
That question makes me want to ask you, and I will, if you feel anxiety or if you feel like an outsider, because a comedian, to me, one definition, is the guy in the movie going, that joke was in the preview.
Yeah.
How dare we whore ourselves out and laugh?
Really?
I
That's
really
cool.
think that's a comedy
Yeah.
thought, especially as people, as purveyors and respecters of laughter.
Right.
We're like, but people are afraid, and people are also just trying to have a good time.
Yeah, sure.
And that is a good part.
Yeah.
And it was in the preview.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not as funny as the laugh that it gets.
Yeah.
Because it was in the preview.
100%, yeah. Happens all the time. It's something I watch for in movies now. After I noticed it that first time I wrote that lyric. God, I forget what the movie was now. I think it was something really random. It was like, I remember it was Julia Roberts, and it was a movie called Aaron Brockovich. Remember that?
Aaron Brockovich, sure.
Anyways, it was like randomly, it was that movie, and it was just this one line they had on the commercial over and over. It was a big movie at the time.
Right.
And I just
and
remember,
back then you'd see the commercial 1,000
yeah,
times.
you would. And then I was in the movie, and I just remember that line came, and I didn't think it was that much better than everything else, but if you were to graph it on, like on a piece of paper, it was just exponentially louder laughter.
Right.
And yeah, then I've noticed it a million times since where, and then I'll notice whether I laugh, because sometimes there's that comfort in knowing what's coming, you know, like rereading a book and just like excited for that part that's coming
Well,
up.
it's you're in the museum and you find the Picassos.
Yeah.
And you go, these are the good ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
You just go, there's a relief that comes in conformity.
Yeah.
You go like, I spend so much time, it's so exhausting evaluating and grading things.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to laugh at the Aaron. That's the positive side. That's how we can love ourselves for laughing
Sure.
at the Aaron Brockovich thing. But there is also something disturbing, because this is why advertising works.
Yeah.
This is why conformity
Totally.
is a
Yeah.
plague. And you see this in some of another lyric or song of yours. I'm going to get it wrong, but Look at Those Fancy Clothes.
Oh, yeah.
I love that song.
Oh, thanks. Gone, that one's called.
Gone.
Yeah.
Great song.
Thanks, man.
But these will keep us warm just like those.
Yeah.
It's Christ saying, give no thought to what
Yeah,
you should
yeah.
wear. It's
Right,
like, what are we doing? But laughing at Aaron Brockovich is the same as thinking a shirt is better because it has a swoosh on it.
Right, yeah.
Which
yeah.
you and I are both old enough to remember there was a time when not every article of clothing was branded.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like, remember, did you see Crumb, the documentary Crumb?
yeah, I did.
That's right around that time, and
Yeah.
he really had a hard time with people wearing shirts that said Pepsi
Yeah.
for no reason. But now
Oh,
you're just
man.
like, of course you wear a shirt that says Pepsi. Pepsi's cool, and I'm
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, no, it's a trip. I mean, I had a hat on the other day because I was trying to walk through this crowd. It was at a show we played a couple nights ago, and it was daylight still, and we were out in the front. We couldn't get our passes yet, and I was trying to get back there, so I grabbed a hat off my friend and I put it on, and I had sunglasses on. I was like cruising around, and then I saw a really close friend of mine, and he looked at me. And I could see his eyes go up and down to the hat, and I forget what it was. Some like it might have been Nike or something. Whatever hat I grabbed off of somebody, and he was looking, and I was like, yeah, I'm just really feeling this corporation right now. I really want them to do well. I just got, I feel like broadcasting them a little bit because I could just tell he was tripping. I had this corporation on my
That's so
forehead.
funny.
Just made me think of that.
Of course, no, that's perfect but you've been deliberate in not buying into that. It's one of the questions I had for you. I don't have many questions written down here.
I have like 5 I want to go back to that you made me think of, though.
Please go back to those before, because I have it written down.
But one of them was just about when you finally find the Picasso,
Yeah.
And then it was making me think of the one that you.
These are the good ones.
Yeah. And it's the opening slot, because you talked about that in one of your episodes. I think it was episode 2 maybe, where you're doing the opening. You go to where do you guys go? You drive.
Albany.
Albany, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're doing the opening gig.
Yeah.
And my friend, this guy John Craigie, who I tour with a lot, he's really funny because he'll tell stories and make you want to laugh, like I said. And then the songs, you're ready for the song, and then oh wait, the song's really sad. And he has this bit where he talks about, he's like, the opening gig is tough. He's like, there's no other, you don't get it in many other, art forms. He's like, it's not like when you lay in your bed to read Steinbeck, all of a sudden somebody else jumps there. Hang on, read this real quick. Or it's
You
like,
open a Steinbeck book and another guy open mic sitting in front of him.
he's just like, hang on.
That's
you gotta do this.
incredible.
Or like you go and see the Mona Lisa and like, hang on, some guy jumps in front of you with a sketchbook. Just check these out first. I know it's not as good, but you want to see these first.
That's hilarious.
It was
And
just
that's so good. Well, that's how I felt opening for Chappelle.
Yeah.
I've never felt more in the way.
Yeah.
And I've never, no, well, they were a good audience. They were a
Right.
great audience.
Right.
But I was in my own way. I wanted to see Chappelle.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to say that to them. I wanted to be like, I know.
But
I'm
that ma-
almost done.
That makes you the best opener. When you really love that band or that person coming after you, I've
Yeah.
done a lot of those gigs. And when you kind of like, you're in that role knowing I am the warm-up, you're not trying to like,
Yeah.
compete. You know, when you're not trying to compete, then I think you're the best warm-up act because
you're a fan too.
and you're just like, I'm so happy to be here, and I know you guys want me off this stage, so I'm going to do my best right now.
Right.
When that's your sentiment, I think you win already.
Well, I used to do the warm-up for The Daily Show, and that's what I would say, is I would say, I know you want Jon Stewart,
Right.
and I know I'm in your way. But I think
Yeah.
this is pretty smart, showbiz smart. I would say, as soon as you guys are really good, I'm going to bring him out.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want what you want. I want to bring him out.
I'll use that soon. I'm open for Willie Nelson and Neil Young in like a week here. I'm doing Farm Aid with those guys.
Perfect.
And so
You can say, as long as,
I'll
when
use
you
your
guys
bit,
are really hot,
Yeah.
I'm going to get out of here.
I want you guys to go nuts. I got a song maybe I'll have to play for you in a minute though that I wrote. It's called it's a true story. It's called Willie Got Me Stoned and Took All My Money.
Is that true?
Yeah.
And it's Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
He stole your money?
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't steal it. He beat me in poker. Yeah.
Well, you can't get stoned and play poker.
Well,
I mean, that's
Willie's technique.
unless you're Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Do you feel that way coming up? I don't know much about your origin story. Did you do a lot of opening?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Because let's dispel a rumor.
Yeah.
You seem like a guy. Like I feel like if I asked Valerie, my fiance, if I was just like, tell me the Jack Johnson story,
Mm-hmm.
she would say you were a guy with a guitar on a beach who was so good that someone heard your record and was like,
Right.
this guy's a headliner.
Yeah.
What really happened?
Yeah, so I mean, here we go. You want like the 10-minute version or that 2-hour version? No,
I
I'm just
mean-
kidding. No, it's like anything else. Like I loved.
It also, let's dispel this too. I'm sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
It also was like the lore of you is like he's not really a musician. He's just a guy,
Right.
who's very good at music. But you're not like a shark. You're not like I moved to L.A. with my demo. It was like he was a guy who. Again, I don't think this is true, but
Yeah,
I
sure.
remember thinking that in college. I was like, he's just a chill guy who's very good at music, and people love him, and they gave him a shot.
It's always been kind of a hobby, and I think I've always tried to keep it that as like a defense mechanism in a way.
Beginner's mind.
Yeah, I just tried to always keep that mentality a little bit. As far as like the overnight success or anything, it was like tons and tons of work and playing every club across America half full,
Really?
and then three-quarters full. And then,
I knew that was true, but I'm still so happy
Yeah.
to hear it, and
Oh,
I want
it's so
I
fun,
want to
though,
get
like-
that out there. That's
yeah.
one of the things maybe you like about Crashing is like it's fucking hard.
Oh, that's the part I love about
It's
it. Like every
fucking
time
hard.
you come out there and bomb, it's just like there was this one gig. I mean, just flashes into mind. There was a time when my first record came out, and at the exact same time, Mos Def had this project called Jack Johnson, and they both came out at the same time.
No.
Yeah, and then eventually he changed it to Black Jack Johnson. I don't know if that was to like differentiate the two, but that's what it started going at as. And there was one gig in Detroit where I was playing a spot called, I think it's called the Magic
Please
Stick.
tell me the story. I think
It was
you're
called the
about to
Magic
tell me.
Stick. Yeah, and it was there's one. If I'm not getting the names wrong, there's like when you get a little bigger, you get to play the Majestic, but otherwise you play the smaller one called the Magic Stick. And maybe I'm saying the wrong names. I forget. But I was playing the smaller one, whatever that one was, and it was a day off from opening for Ben Harper. We were playing to like sold out crowds, being the opening band for Ben Harper, and we had this day off, and so we booked a show at this little spot. And I show up and I look at the line of people standing there, and they're all waiting to come in. And I started feeling like this might be Mos Def's crowd, you know. And then I like walked up and asked them, and they were like, "Yeah, we're definitely here to see Mos Def." And I was like, "I'm Jack Johnson too, you know. That's my name, and I'm playing here tonight." And there was like maybe 15 to 20 people were at the show, and a place could have held a couple hundred, you know. And it was really sweet. They all came in, checked it out still. But it was
Really?
like one of those gigs where you're playing music like so much easier and people know your songs, and you're playing songs that nobody's ever heard.
You
Anyways,
could have covered Black on both sides, just to mix it up.
it was fun though. The
Play a
crowd-
little Black Star.
It was a really supportive crowd.
That's
It was like-
really they were okay. They were okay with the shift.
yeah, I think some people probably got their money back and didn't come in, but some
Right.
did, you know. And it was like it was a spot where you could play pool and stuff, and there was definitely a lot of pool being played, not
Right.
a whole lot of listening, but it was. Anyways, I had a lot of those kind of nights, like where we played to clubs that I felt like, did anybody put a poster up in this town before we got here or anything?
Wow. I've done I still do shows like that.
And I think, it's like there is no shortcut, I mean, I think like as quick as you get there, is as quick as you might go back down. Like, I think, you know, like you could
That's
almost
so interesting.
you could do a graph.
You want a long ascension.
I guess as long as you want the long descension too,
because you get the long descension. Yeah, because then maybe you get a little bit longer at the top of that bell curve too.
You kind of I don't know. I think you learn so much from playing the clubs that are half empty, and you also
you get a little bit of that grit too.
Yeah.
Like you stick with it.
You learn the tools too on like how to deal with that stuff. You know, I mean, it's
What are they?
Well, I think like for one of the main things I've learned is keep people who are close around you. Like the same band that played with me at those gigs is the exact same band who's on the stage with me now. So when we were playing, if we're at Glastonbury and all of a sudden we find ourselves in front of like 130,000 people, which is the biggest crowd we ever played in front of, and it was too big. It was nuts. But like it was too big, and I was like totally overwhelmed by the energy of it. And I looked over at the guys in the band, and it's those same guys that used to play with me in those half-empty clubs.
Yes.
You can at least look at each other, and you can like read their face of being like, it's okay, we'll get through this kind
That's
of
right.
thing.
You basically just explain like why people love being married. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, let's keep someone around
Yeah.
that you can share the experience with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just be with a stranger. You'll be with like the producer gave you a new bass player, and that guy wasn't at the Magic Stick.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what the fuck is he doing here?
And my wife was there. I don't know if she was at that gig. Actually, she was at grad school at that point. But my wife and I have been together since we were 18 years old.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, and she watched me. She helped me write all my first songs. I mean, in the sense of she'd be in the room.
Is Brushfire Fairy Tales the first album?
Yeah.
So she was helping on some of those.
Yeah, I mean, she was at least like in the room. Like I literally would be in the dorm room when I was first trying. None of those songs ended up on that first record, but I would try a line, I'd look over and watch her, and if I'd kind of catch her attention, she'd turn around, I'd be like, okay, that's a good line, I'll keep it.
When I get stoned and play the piano for Valerie, I do the same thing. Like, I'll improvise something that's so good, and I'll look at her, and I'll be like, huh? Because we're performers. I need someone, and that's why you keep going back out on the road.
No, it's true. Pay attention, somebody.
Somebody needs to see it. And also, it ministers to people. It makes people break. I mean, you must get that all the time.
Yeah.
You're the soundtrack of... You know, people make banana pancakes to your movie.
Yeah, sure.
People don't put on comedy records and have romantic.
I do. I like oh, not the romantic part, but in the morning sometimes. You know.
Oh well, me too. I
don't put on at night.
I like that too.
Once we're going to bed.
What was so you're playing the guitar in the. I have two questions for you, and you can blend the answers if you like. One is you're in the movies and you think, I know this is on. That was on Brushfire Fairy Tales, the everyone laughed at a joke line. Mm-hmm. Do you have a notebook on you? Are you writing that down then, or are you just trying, like I have to sometimes, very desperately to remember?
Yeah, I do a lot of remembering.
Forget that line.
I used to kind of think, like, if I don't remember it, it wasn't that good. And that was before...
That's so funny. That's the Mitch Hedberg joke.
Oh, really?
He goes, sometimes I think of a joke, and I think it's really funny, unless... I don't have a pen. And then, he basically goes like, and then I realize it's not that funny.
Right.
He lets it go.
If it's that good, it'll stick in your mind. But
there is some truth to that.
That was my mentality before I had kids. And then now that I have 3 kids, I kind of realize, like, I got to write it down.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much other crap on my mind that,
of course.
that you're going to forget it. So
back then, though, you would remember.
Now I write stuff down more than I used to.
Not the whole... I mean, I'm interested in the whole story, but in the interest of time.
Yeah, sure.
From the dorm room, did you have a 4-track? Were you just recording
4-track cassette, Tascam.
Tascam! Yeah. I love one of the best toys that's ever existed.
Fun. So fun.
That's ever existed.
Yeah.
I still think, I know there's GarageBand and stuff, but there's something tactile about it.
I know.
You know what I mean?
And the fact that you got 4 tracks, it's really cool. And then if you want more, you got to bounce them down to 1.
Yes, mix them down.
And then you got to commit. You're like, is this the best possible mix that could be going on that track? Because I'm going to record over these other 3, you know?
And even the hiss of the tape.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, there's that Elliott Smith, his first record, not the first, they put out like lost tracks, but the one that's called Elliott Smith is clearly recorded on a 4-track, I think, because you can hear the...
Beautiful, I love that record. Yeah.
And then you can... It's just a guy with a snare drum and a hi-hat and a guitar.
He's so cool. He probably had like some kind of like a cooler one than we... It probably wasn't a Tascam. It was probably some kind of retro like 2-inch
He even went back further. Yeah, he went even more lo-fi.
Yeah.
But so you have your wife-to-be.
Yeah.
We can get into that.
But the 3 o'clock in the morning one, I mean, so then, I mean, fast forward, I'll do it at the same time as the story. I mean, we stayed together through college, and then we moved in our senior year together, and then I had a drum set in the living room that a friend let me borrow, and then on Valentine's Day one year, we were making a student film about these friends that went kind of, one friend goes a little over the edge, and he's going to drive off a cliff, and they're moving from one house to another. They rent a U-Haul, and he locks the rest of them for no apparent reason in the back of the U-Haul. I didn't write it. I was just the camera guy on this. And he's going to drive off a cliff, and they have to. It was like a kind of like a weird action film, and then they had to climb out. And like,
that's an interesting idea.
It was pretty cool. It came out good, and he had to get on the roof, and he was like talking sense into his friend before he drove off the cliff. So, anyways, we had this U-Haul rented for making that student film.
It's very Eminem. He always has someone in a trunk, and
really?
the person's going to drive off a bridge.
It was for this film festival called Real Loud. It was really cool because you'd make it, and then you would have to have a live band play along with it for the soundtrack back at UCSB. And so we had this U-Haul rented for the student film, and so I realized on Valentine's Day, I was like, hey, we can go pick up a piano. I saw one for $99 at Salvation Army.
With the same U-Haul?
With that U-Haul, because we already had it rented, you know. So we did that, and we got back to the house, and I'm so excited because I'm like, killed it. It's like Valentine's Day tomorrow, and I've got this piano already. And we try to put it in the house, and it barely fits through the front door. And then I realized there's no wall that can actually accommodate it. And so, like, the only way that it worked was by putting the piano, and it like covered half of this doorway.
Oh my
God!
God.
For the rest of that year, we had to kind of like scooch sideways to get around the piano just to get in our bedroom. And so that's on a song. It's like, do you remember when? It was something about the piano took up the living room.
Yes,
it's in one of the songs.
But is there a better feeling than the electricity of like? The cusp of creativity, like you want to make something.
The potential energy.
And you're young and you're broke,
yeah.
and you had to use, it just feels very beautiful and almost metaphoric. It's like the providence of the U-Haul, but then the initiative and the follow-through of going, with this U-Haul, I can get a piano.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling of vitality. That's the feeling that I'm chasing, is when the lightning is in you and you go, there's something I have to do.
No, I agree.
Right? Like you write that lyric on the new record about season 3 being the good distraction from reality.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, what are we distracting ourselves from? And wouldn't you say one of the answers is getting a piano with your U-Haul, covering a door, creating something that you and your wife will always remember, and banging out songs with a borrowed drum kit. It doesn't have to be music, but making stuff, is that where the juice is for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's so often, like, I'll go back to... like, I'll have these little folders on whether I do the songs on a 4-track or I just record them on my phone or the GarageBand sometimes because it's easy and you're in a hotel room and you can just do it.
Yeah.
Like, whatever it is, like, I'll have these versions of the song, and a lot of times they're, like, through the microphones just on the computer, so it kind of doesn't, the quality's not very good, and, like, no, I can't really put it out. But I'll have these folders that'll say, like, LP7 roughs, because it's like, that's my 7th record we just did. And so then I'll go back and listen to those. At some point, I'll notice that, and I'll be like, oh, damn, that was so much better than the version I put on the record. And that was kind of the thinking on this new record. I tried to make it where most of the songs, those are the first versions that I recorded. I just brought a friend in who was better with the microphones, and we went in the studio, and he would just be real patient. And as I was like noodling around with songs, and like I'd be like, okay, I'm going to try it. I think I know the chord's good enough. And we'd try it, and I would mess up the chord. And then we'd say, okay, let's try it again. And when I'd finally get it, the first time I got it where the chords are actually the right chords all the way through, there's something to that version when you're still really excited and you're still giving yourself the goosebumps, by playing, you're still giving yourself the shivers. Yeah. It's like there's something in that version that I wanted to try to capture, because it reminded me of being in my living room with the 4-track, and you get, by the end of it, I have like chords because you're reaching over here and you want to get this guitar, and then like the microphone cord gets around your leg, and then like at some point you'd look down and it would just be ridiculous. It'd be like spaghetti noodles just like all around you, and your guitar, they're just totally tangled. Beautiful. And I would love that feeling, Beautiful. So I just kind of wanted to get back to that a little bit. You can't go back, but just get back to that feeling at least.
I want to tell you that when I was talking to Valerie about how I feel like you are, she actually said it, and I was already thinking it, that you feel like an evolved person, a conscious person. I'm not saying anybody's there yet.
Sure,
you know what I mean? You seem like you're on the path, and you have been for a long time. And I said, yeah, totally. And I started quoting lyrics of yours that made me think that you were that way. And I got the chills. Oh, that's cool. Very, music can get me. If it gets me, it really gets me. Yeah. And just saying it will make me feel like I'm going to cry. Yeah. Sometimes just seeing people singing, even if it's not a sad song.
I know what you mean.
If people start singing Get By With a Little Help From My Friends or something in unison, even if it's bad, I'll start being like, ah.
Well, the truth in those lyrics,
Yes, but also the agreement. It's a group of people, you and your band and you and your guitar, agreeing, all pointed in one direction. A comedy show can feel that way too. Kind of beautiful, because we're all, that's what makes a heckler so offensive.
To me, and
because you're like, we're trying to go this way.
Totally. And I love those moments in your show where like somebody will yell, like, write down a joke or something. And it's just like, it stops you, because it's
right.
But there's so much, like, I really do consider comedians to be the genius of our time. It's like one of the last areas where people are allowed to just give their honest opinion.
They're celebrated to do.
I think, it's just like, it's so beautiful. And there's that fine line between insanity and genius, where it's, you see a lot of that.
Well, we don't have a lot of cultural models that allow for people to be wrong. Comedians can be wrong and ugly if it's in the name of their art. Have you run into that? Have you ever wanted to say something that like just didn't hit people the right way?
I've felt okay about being able to speak my mind usually. There was one time in, I think we were in Minneapolis, where I found myself, it was right around, it's funny because now I feel like you're allowed to sort of say whatever you want about the president. It's kind of, we're at a time now where it's almost irresponsible not to, when you feel like this person is leading our country and leading in a really bad direction, in my opinion,
totally.
And it's, you see like the EPA getting gutted and all these things, pulling out the Paris Climate Agreement. It's sort of like, it'd be kind of irresponsible not to say, hey, that's not cool.
No, that's why I've never told a political joke in my life. I was a comedian during W. Bush, and everybody has some angle, even if they're a Democrat and whatever, and I'm a Democrat. But it's like there's still something. With Trump, you had to be like, well, I guess I have to tell it.
In a way, as like a father, even I feel like I got to let my kids know, hey, this is the way I feel.
Well, that's why on this podcast, every time it comes up, it's like, please, for my future children, please no, fuck that guy.
Seriously.
Fuck that guy. It's almost like you need to be on the record. It's like,
that's how I feel about this song I wrote called My Mind is for Sale, where it's like, I don't care for your paranoid, us against them fearful kind of walls. I don't care for your me first, give me appetite at all.
Yes.
It's very much so. But to get back to it, it was like a time. Remember when the Dixie Chicks, they said something about George Bush?
Yes.
And it was just like, oh no, like you're
seems like a different time,
unpatriotic and all this stuff. Well, there was a time when it was like that same week when that was all the big news, and there was we were playing, I think it was Minneapolis, and there was somebody in the front row that had this gigantic painting they'd made of my head, and they kept holding it up, and I didn't want to have to say anything about it because it was kind of like, I hope they never hear this, but it was kind of a funny painting, where it was like, I didn't really want to have to take it and show the crowd, but it was like blocking like 10 people behind her. Because it was, like, if you can imagine out on the other side of these microphones, it's like this person had to spread their arms out to hold it. It was big. It wasn't just like a little painting, it was like big. And I was just, I kept thinking like, shit, she's ruining the show for everybody behind them. So I should grab this thing. So I walked over and I grabbed it, and I was kind of like, I can't just go put it down. It's so big. Everybody's going to see me holding this thing. So I was like, I turned it around, and as I looked at it, I was like, it just like, right before I even said it, I looked, and I was like, that's weird. It looks kind of like me, but it looks like George Bush, too. And I was like, I turned around and said, hey, this looks like a cross between me and George Bush. Like, I mean, no offense to your painting, and then right as I looked, there was like this little dark spot like under the nose there. And it just slipped out of my mouth where I was like, oh, look, it's even got the little Hitler mustache.
Yes.
And then the whole crowd went, ooh. And I just felt like it was the only time I've been in front of that many people where the audience didn't do like a cheer or just silence, but it was like, oh. It was like as if they all meant to tell me, like, I don't think you should have said that.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. I was just calling it how I saw it. And then it sounded more like I was like backing up the point, but I was calling how I see it on this picture. I really wasn't trying to equate George Bush to Hitler.
That's so funny.
But it was right as we were going to this war in Iraq.
It's very Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm just calling it like I see it. No, I'm just saying he's Hitler. Wait, no.
I just kept going deeper. And then I was like, I better just play music. And then I was like, all right, here's our next song. It's called Mediocre Bad Guys. And then we went into the song, and I was like, oh, even that one's like put an exclamation point on it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But anyway.
But for the most part, people love hearing what you have to say, right?
I mean, I hope so.
You're not too divisive.
Keep trying. No.
You and I are similar in that way.
I've always felt like there is...
I just mean like I'm not divisive.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. And I think there's a great Woody Allen film where there's a character, and every time they come on, it's like the narrator comes in and it says she was like an art student, and it say she knows exactly what she didn't like. And that's like all it would say about that character. And to me, it was like a way of saying she's young and she's still figuring out her place in this world and how she wants to approach it, because you kind of start sometimes by knowing what you don't like. Yes. And that's really easy to say. It's like really easy to point out in other artists or other things what you don't like. But to be able to develop what you do like and what you
Perfect.
do want to see in this world.
Any old donkey can tear down a barn.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's a great
so
line.
easy. It's first half of life, second half of life stuff.
Yeah.
And most people stay in first half,
Yeah.
which is defining yourself by what you hate.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a bit about this, actually, which is like, I haven't done it in ages, but it's about sarcasm. And it's like, sarcasm is just one of the many services I offer. Like, people love being like, oh, Jack Johnson, that's fun.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's just so easy. It's
Yeah.
like, what are you about?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not about your age. Some people go into the second half of their life when they're 15, like really
Sure.
interesting,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
artistic, beautiful people like go like, no, this is what I'm for,
Yeah.
and I'm going to build a barn.
Yeah, so the building thing, you know, I mean,
Making
that's
something.
what I've felt like with music. It's like I've never wanted to tear something down if I didn't feel like I had something to offer in place.
Erect something new.
Yeah, so
You
that's
can't
it,
just
yeah.
tear down the church. We need
Yeah.
build a new one
Yeah.
because we need somewhere to go on Sunday.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's
But are you making it sounds like you are making the music you would like to hear. It seems that
Yeah.
simple. It's like that.
to a certain degree. I mean, I think a lot of times we're defined by, the things that like your vulnerabilities or sort of the things like you're trying to sing like Marvin Gaye, but you don't sound like Marvin Gaye.
Right.
But people end up liking your voice for what it is, and it's
That's funny.
even though every time you hear it, you're like, every time I hear one of my records, it's not really what I'm shooting for. I can hear all those things that I was aiming for that I didn't get.
Yeah, but the sound, your
But I
sound
think
is
those
the sound of you striving
in the
for
end,
gay.
In the end,
You're
it's
going
like,
for Marvin.
Yeah, like I listen to somebody like Greg Brown, and I don't know what he's shooting for, but to me, it's just like there's nothing you could do better than to hear Greg Brown's voice singing those lyrics,
Yeah.
And the same thing with like all your favorite artists. I kind of hope that as humans, they're all shooting for something even else, and nobody
Yeah.
can quite get to where they're going for,
Well, that's a Seinfeld thing. He goes, I hold the idea of comedian in my head, and it's a mark that I'm always falling short of.
Right.
But it's good to have something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
even if it's capital M musician or capital C comedian, going, I'm striving for that. And this
Yeah.
is what it sounds like when I watch it, someone else's, I just watched Ryan Hamilton's comedy special. It's amazing. And I was like, oh, I don't think I've ever gotten laughs like that.
Right.
And of course I have.
Yeah, sure.
But you're still watching it going like, I think I'm a fraud,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
yeah.
It's one of the
I think so. I think it's important.
uncomfortable things.
If you feel like you've gotten there, if you feel like you already made your masterpiece, it's kind of all downhill from
Who
there.
needs it?
Kind of like the only reason I keep making records because I keep feeling like I think I'm going to finally make a good one.
That's right.
And then it's like, it's pretty good.
7 records,
I'm
though.
gonna try to keep going.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Can you?
Thanks.
I mean,
I can't believe it. Yeah, it's for sure.
I can't
believe I was
imagine
7.
that.
No,
That's incredible.
I think I cracked like 100 songs or something now when I counted.
Wow.
Maybe it's 80. I don't know.
That's still a lot. Because wouldn't you agree? I feel like music is more vulnerable. Talk about people defining themselves by things that they don't like. Music is kind of like impressions. When a comedian does impressions, you kind of know if it's working or
Right.
not. Like, you don't have to have a lot of taste. That's why it's called pop music.
Right.
It's popular
Sure,
because
yeah.
everybody kind of has an opinion about it.
Right.
A song, you can almost smell it faster than a bad joke. You can smell a bad song. Like
I guess
sitting
I don't know.
down.
I feel like we got at least a tool there. Like if I feel like if I need to, I can go around a few more times on the cycle on my guitar, catch my breath.
Well, that-
Whereas,
I
like
get-
you don't have that luxury as a comedian. It's sort of like it's either dead space or you're telling a
Yeah,
joke.
that's true.
You know?
But you guys have it's elevated poetry. This is weird to quote. No, why is it weird to quote Sarah McLachlan? She's lovely.
Yeah.
Sarah McLachlan said that her lyrics read like bad poetry, but you put them
Yeah,
to music
I've
and
always
they
felt
work.
that. It's the,
right?
It's the chord changes. It's like when you find that right chord of like going to the minor, whatever. It accentuates that certain syllable just in the right way.
It
I've
fills
never
in a
thought
gap.
of it as poetry. Like I can never write it down. I write to melodies. Like once I get a melody in my head,
Yeah.
then it's like certain lines. They start filling in the syllables of that, and they make sense. But there's been a few times where I wouldn't even call it poetry, but there's like there's lines that I'll write down, and I know I want to eventually use those. Like on this new record, I always had this line in my mind that it was like I pictured kind of like people just barely surviving on one side. I mean, you could call them cavemen. It was like people just trying to survive. On the other side is modern day man, and so there's this line I had that was like, some of us need to gather, some are going to have to kill. But with everybody so preoccupied, who's going to pay the bills? And it's sort of, and then it goes on. So it's on this song called "Gather" on the new record, and so that was one where I kind of had that line, and I was just waiting for a melody for it.
Oh, interesting.
Whereas usually it's the melody that I have, and then somehow I'll find myself singing one line over and over to that melody, and then that becomes kind of the question, like why does that line in my head? Where did it come from? Sometimes
Yeah.
I can figure out. It's like, oh, from that book I just read or something. Other times I literally just somehow fit that melody, and then that'll become the question of, okay, what does that mean to me? And sometimes I feel like the song answers that question. Other times it just makes the question even harder to answer, you know.
Do you get that sort of? I don't want to. I'm going to start by saying I get that sort of. So you're not on the spot. That sort of. It's in the realm of magic.
Yeah.
Where you feel like your antenna's clean and a line comes through you.
Yeah.
Like you're trying. I say this all the time. You're trying to fly the kite into the black hole and pull something back out.
Yeah,
so your
that's a good
subconscious is there. It's cooking and churning this conversation. I'm now a part of your consciousness. You could dream about this conversation, but it's going to be in the mix, and it might come out as lyrics. But have you gotten that feeling where you're like, where the heck did that come from?
Yeah, I can't explain it better than you just did, too. You really nailed it exactly.
No, I talk about it all the time.
No, it feels exactly like that. And then it's funny because there's whatever you want to call it, inspired, whatever, there's these lines that, for one reason or another, I can never explain like where they came from.
Yes.
It's like I'll wake up with the line, or it's just by the end of the day, I've realized I've been repeating it in my head, but it's there. And it's there's probably you could put a simple definition of it being, scientific, or you could just say it's inspired, whatever. But there's a lot of times there's that one line, and then the rest of the song has kind of worked for me. It's almost like the way that it felt when you're trying to write a paper for college and you keep putting it off. And then I have I'll be in the studio and I'll realize the first verse and the chorus are really easy to write and just all float out. But now I got to sit down and go, okay, I got to work on this second verse.
That's right where I am all the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to write a book, right? Or I guess I am writing a book. Right. I'm not trying. I am writing a book. So you get the point, and you're like, like sometimes I'll be writing, and I'll literally like clap my hands, and I go, that's the shit right there. Cool. And then the grind is the part before it and the part after it. You're like, how can I lead people to that beach through this jungle and have them have the same feeling I had?
Well, it's good. I keep quoting my friend John Craigie, who's just a good friend. He's classic, but he's got this great line in a song that we sing together. The song's called "I Wrote Mr. Tambourine Man." It's a great story. You'll have to listen to his version of it. But there's a line that I get to sing, and I love it. It's his line, but I love singing it. It's and we're always closing our eyes as we sing it. It's never trust a musician that plays with their eyes open. All the good shit happens when they're closed. You got to give yourself the shivers before you can give them to anybody else.
Oh, fuck you. Yes!
I love it. Yeah,
it's so good.
And I can brag about it because it's not my line, but I love singing it because...
I want to greenlight you to brag about your own stuff too, but that's a great one. You love singing it because...
It just feels, it's that... There was something I realized at one point that it was like easy to write songs. They don't always come easily, but like there was a long time where I'd write songs and sometimes I'd play them in front of people and I would know there was something didn't feel right about it. But like part of me would let it come out. And then eventually I realized it's as easy as this. Like if I know that it's good and it gets me excited to sing it, then I can feel confident with it. It's like such an easy point. It's hard to explain even, but I think it does it better to say you got to give yourself the shivers before you give them to somebody else.
That's right.
That was it for me.
And then that's why you play it too. I mean, that's why you record it and that's why you play it. Sometimes it does get lost in the press and the travel and even the I don't feel like playing tonight or whatever it is that can drag us both down. But then you kind of, sometimes in a good show, I remember, even though I've told this joke a million times, they haven't heard it. That's one of the things I always say before I go out is they haven't heard it. Like
you have to give yourself before you go out. Yeah,
exactly. And then you try and get in that.
But
space.
have they? I mean, is it different nowadays for you with the internet and everything?
Sometimes they have heard
do
it.
People like listen ahead of time?
But that's one of the goals of my career from the beginning was I was like, I want to be like a musician. I want people to want me to repeat material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
people get mad when musicians don't repeat.
No, it's true. I mean, you got it. It's like you got a song, and those are the ones people want to hear. You go out and play them. So I'm sure it's similar to telling a joke that you've told before, but it kind of works.
For me,
it's like there's truth in it.
But that's the thing. As long as you do like what I did, now it sounds like I'm kissing my own butt, but it's like
kiss it.
Go ahead, kiss it. As long as you acknowledge to them, I've told this joke before.
Right.
So what I like to do is I say, is there a joke you'd like to hear?
Right.
And then they usually say one of 5 things. Yeah. And then you do it. And then if they stop laughing, because sometimes it is a little bit like making love, and then they can tell you're thinking about something else. You're thinking about an ex-girlfriend. Right. You have to be like, yeah, but we're thinking about her together. I know we're shifting gears, and now I'm reciting something.
I love that. The first episode where that guy is, or maybe, I think it's first episode, maybe a second episode, where he comes out and he's like, look, he somehow tries to talk logic into you that you're actually making love because he's making love to your ex.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Leaf tries to say that everything's one.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Which is,
It's a beautiful scene.
It is. Well, I try
And
to.
the fact that you're listening to him and trusting this guy. You keep having this relationship with him where you're almost buying into what he's telling you, and then you keep remembering, like, this is the guy who's ruined my marriage.
No.
F you.
But I mean, not to get too heady of my own show, but I love to. He's speaking truth to me, and just like in life, it comes to you in the least
different
expected
places,
place.
for sure.
It comes to you through pain.
Yeah.
I mean, you said your slow come up, the playing the half clubs, the playing for the people that thought you were most deaf, and you most definitely are not, is where you learned how to play for 130,000 people. And I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I only did that once, and it was like really the most awkward time you could have played for 130,000 people. For one, somehow they put they put Ray Davies before us. And, like, I don't know if the person booking was so young they didn't know who Ray Davies was, but he basically came out and played, like, every great Kink song you could play right before we had to come on stage to an English audience. And right after he played, and it was the set break, they were changing over the drums and everything. England lost in the World Cup during that. Everybody went to this tent to watch their team lose and then came back to watch us play after the Kinks, had, after Ray Davies had just killed it. Like, it closed with, You Really Got Me
What a
Going.
nightmare.
And so we didn't slay it that night. One of my, it was like, definitely felt awkward. So I just wanted to go back. We don't play to 130,000 people very often.
That wasn't necessarily, just like me at Radio City, it was a great honor.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I got off stage, I was like, that's all it did.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Even while I was doing it, I was like,
I didn't mean to cut off your flow.
No, please. You know what I mean, though. The good shows, not the 130. That sounds
sure.
horrible.
Yeah.
But the good ones, you tend to learn a little bit less.
Yeah. No,
you know what I
for
mean?
sure. You're trying to take everything. You know, it's funny. I've just been realizing from listening to a lot of comedians talk about the process. It sounds like, and you tell me if this is correct, you guys kind of, you'll work your show for a while, and then you decide you're doing your special. So it's kind of like you're going to finally do your taping or whatever. Yeah. And it's, by the time you get there, you don't really want to be learning anything anymore. You kind of want to have learned it all on the road.
And then the game becomes, can I do it as if I'm still working it out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
There's
for me, the trick is to do it in a different order or to try and mix out. Even if you know you're going to edit it out in between two jokes, do some bullshit just to keep yourself in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are just painting by numbers.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the thing that I think can leave me cold with comedy is when you start to feel that they're not there.
Yeah.
And that can happen with music as well. It's just like, this guy's just, it's what Birbiglia says, I just did the album.
Yeah.
Like, you just played it through.
Yeah.
And you left.
You know,
you didn't listen for one moment as to what they wanted.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It makes me think of because kind of going back to, like, jumping back in time a little bit to when it first started, I was really lucky where I had my friend Emmett that you kicked out of here before we started.
Yeah, get out of here,
I
Emmett.
see him down there looking at comics right now.
He's happy.
But no, he's great. And so him and I have been friends since we were making surf films. I used to be the camera guy on surf films, and we used to make these. He was the editor. And
this is pre-GoPro.
This is pre-GoPro.
When it was hard.
It was all 16 millimeter. It was out of film school. We were like film nerds who no, we can do it all on 16.
What's it, in a bag or something?
16 millimeter.
How do you keep it from getting wet?
But you have these water housings, they're called, where it seals in. You got to keep the silicone grease so they don't crack and everything. All the seals and you'd even put like tampons sometimes on the inside of the water housing in case any moisture got in. It would soak that up.
Really?
Yeah, that was the trick I learned.
Wow.
And so then. Yeah, where was I going? Oh, so anyways, like Emmett and his family, he has a huge family in L.A., so I would come down and play this spot called The Mint, and he would just bring his whole family, and it would fill the place up. And they wouldn't listen to anything I was saying. They'd just all be drinking beers and catching up with each other, but the people at the place were like, "Whoa, you filled it up," you know?
Right.
And you could go on, and they would give you like a better night that way, and you kind of keep growing from there. And I've digressed so far that I forgot what was I going. Oh, so I remember, though, anyways, like being at these places, and I would be so excited that if anybody would show up, and some of them, especially once we got out of Southern California, where we didn't know as many people. But then when you actually had a full room, no matter what size it was, if it was a coffee shop or a record store that you got to play an in-store, and when people would show up, I mean, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I would just be so thankful those people were there. You know the feeling. You travel all the way somewhere, and you wake up and you wonder if anybody's going to come. And then when those people come, I was playing 100% to those people in that room every time. And I never really dreamed bigger. Like, to me, I was like, this is amazing. I'm like getting to share my songs with this group of people. And I met a few people along the way. I don't remember their names, and I think that's kind of the point, is like, I can remember people saying like, oh, I hate this club. I'm so sick of this club. I can't wait to play the El Rey, or whatever. They were always thinking about that next room up. And I just remember at that time thinking like, that seems like a weird ideas, like to already be dreaming bigger than this. When this is like, this is the magic, you know what I mean? Like going back to those half full rooms, like it wouldn't change anything. It was so fun to be in the van with my friends, drinking too much coffee, talking about the next gig, how we're going to make it different, this and that, sharing, you know, we'd take turns on the rollaway every night in the same room.
Yes.
And it was like, those are the best times. I mean, it's to have those same guys in the band now. It's fun. We got our own hotel rooms finally and all that stuff. And I wouldn't change that. Like, I don't want to sleep with those guys anymore.
Yeah.
But I would never go back and change. Like, those are the
purity
times,
of intent.
And it's like playing to those people in that room with all your energy that night.
But this is what I can't say enough. That's why I'm happy to repeat it. I actually wrote it down because I was hoping we would get to it. It wasn't to get laid. It wasn't to be famous. And it wasn't to be rich. It's what you wanted to do. It was in you. It was written on your bones to do. And you were lucky enough, and we're both lucky enough to figure out what it was that made us feel that type of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it was not... I remember when I taped my half hour, there was a guy there that I knew, and I was like, are you going to do that bit? Because I knew one of his bits. I was like, are you going to do that bit, that amazing bit? And he's like, no, I'm going to save it for my hour. And this is before we all had hours. Typically, like, you did a half hour.
Oh, right.
Maybe a year later, if you're lucky, you do an hour.
You got.
I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
We got to leave it all out there. There's no, like... It's those people. It's this half hour now, and a year later. By the time I think I did my hour well over a year later.
Right.
I wasn't doing any of the same jokes. They were all gone.
Right, new experiences.
You leave it all out there.
Yeah,
I did it all. I think my half hour taping, I went long, not like horribly long, but because I was trying to like really play to that in-store audience.
There's a lot to that too. I mean, I know guys that have been making their first record for 10 years. You know, it's like it's really easy to be shooting for that perfection we were talking about earlier and thinking somehow you're going to get there on that group of songs. And I think it has something to do with being on the 7th record is like every time I've got to the end and it's your due date, you know, and you're kind of like, well, there it is. And you kind of feel like I could go back and redo all these better. I know it.
Yes.
You know, and I still hate that part and I still think this one sucks. And whatever, you turn it in and you kind of, it gives you that motivation to have those new experiences, new jokes for you guys. It's like new songs for me. It's, and I think it's important just to keep moving forward. You know?
I forgot who said it, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, and it might not even be this, but it's the sentiment. It's like art is never finished; it's only abandoned.
Right.
I just think that's perfect.
That's
like,
perfect.
And that's why we have those.
I'm learning so much from you today. I love all your lines. I'm going to wish I had a pen to write these down.
Well, we're recording it.
No, good. There you go. I'm going to listen back.
You can. That's one of the things that I always think is when I'm an old man, I can listen back to what it was like when I was 36, 35. I forget when I started it.
I knew we'd connect. It was just from watching the show, like and binging on last night.
Happy,
Sorry,
man.
I'm tired now. I just stayed up too late watching it. I just kept wanting the next episode. And but anyways, there's something about your character even that connected with me, where it's sort of this innocence and kind of like.
But I think what people relate to about Pete, I call him Pete, even though it's me.
Yeah.
It's obnoxious, but I work so hard on the show, you have to just go, Pete.
Yeah.
You're editing it. You go, is there one where Pete does this? It's too weird to say. Is there one where I do this?
Yeah.
But I think what people relate to about Pete is that he just wants to do it to do it.
Yeah.
And you actually run into more comedians like that than non-comedians.
Right.
But to your point, the guys in my world that were complaining about the size of the venue, or even some of the guys I knew that just were like, I just can't wait to be famous, or I can't wait to be rich.
The
None
fame
of them
thing
are
is
doing
interesting,
it anymore. They're not doing it.
Yeah, no, it's
over.
true. There's a mixture between that too, because I had this point where my friend J.P. Plenier, who produced the first record I did, and the first label I was on, it was this really cool little independent label. They're called Everloving now, but they were Enjoy Records at the time. I think they got sued for the name back then. But that was the first label I was on, and he really helped guide us through it. And there was like this point where I was kind of trying to play this role of in between, like, it's like I was excited to have a record, but every step I'd be like, I'm not sure I want to take that step yet. It was like that fear of going to that next room, or that fear of kind of whatever it was, like getting played on that radio station that wasn't just like a KCRW type of station. If it was like, you got to go in there, and if you show up and play live on the air, they'll play your song. That all these things were like, is that selling out? Is this, it was like kind of these choices along the way. And you'd just be like, it seems like you just need to take a day and kind of think about it. Because like what you're trying to do right now is make your music more popular. And if you don't want to make it more popular, that's fine. But you need to kind of choose, because it seems you're a little confused.
Yeah.
And I was, and I still am. It's like, I think it's good to always be confused. Do you want that next step? It's like, how commercial do you want to go with it? And it's always something you have to consider.
We need to have that blend, I think. Go on.
I was just going to say, at some point you do have to kind of admit to yourself you are trying to grow it, if you are, because it's, and I don't know, fame is an interesting thing. It's like, it's nice, like you were pointing out earlier. It's like sometimes somebody will come up and they'll share a story with me about something the song did for their family when they lost a loved one, or you know, I've talked to people who the songs have really gotten them through some hard times, and to know the music has done that for people, it's like that part of the fame I'm okay with, you know. And there's other times where it feels really shallow, and I question like the place I'm at. But I know what music has done for me, other people's music.
Right.
And those times it's gotten me through, and how much, like, when I hear certain songs, I have to almost turn them off because they mean too much to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, you mentioned Ben Harper earlier. And the song, you know, his song "Please Bleed."
Oh yeah,
Jesus Lord.
Yeah,
that was my divorce song.
Oh, really? Wow,
that helped me cry because I was trying to cry.
Yeah.
You know, when your emotions are blocked, and he makes a sound in the live record where it just sounds like he's crying or screaming.
It's wild. Yeah, yeah.
And every time I can't listen to it. Like I in the good way.
Yeah.
I love it, but I can't listen to it.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, that part of the fame has to be.
Yeah, his music is just such a big part of my life. Because I was a mega fan. I mean, I can't even tell you, I was like a college student. It was like going to his shows, and then I'd be singing the words, and my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, she'd have to elbow me, like, shh, you're singing too loud kind of thing. You know, like I knew everyone. I was so influenced by his music that I got to this place where all of a sudden, the guy J.P. Plunier, who produced the first record I was talking about, he actually produced Ben's records. And so when somehow, actually Emmett was the one that handed JP my little cassette tape. This is back before it was even CDs. It was like, it was easier just to make it, you know, a copy off
Is
the
this your 4-track? Yeah.
And anyways, it got into their hands. And then when I heard that he maybe had heard my music, and I assumed maybe he'd put it on, whatever. But then I got to meet Ben, and it was backstage at the show, and he came walking up behind me, and he started singing one of the lyrics. And I turned around, and it was Ben Harper.
Of your song?
Yeah, and it was like his music had meant more to me than just about anybody in the world. And so to know that he had actually listened to it, you know, it was like I was wanting to cry. And then, anyways, our friendship has developed over the years. He's been like a big brother to me in a lot of ways because he kind of took me on the road. Yeah. And just watching how he was, too, with his fans, and like he would break down that barrier of like being up on this pedestal. He would just have conversations with people out back. And anyways, I learned so much from traveling with him for months.
But that paying it forward to the next guy.
Yeah.
That's where you're at, you know, and that's where I'm at. You get the opener, and it's not a mentor. It's just somebody that you can go like, let's just relax.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And it's nice, you know, you get to hear music that really, it touches you, and you're able to kind of like shine some of your light onto that. It's a really cool thing.
Speaking of fame in a less direct way, I'm interested because, selfishly, I'm doing my second season, which is like my second album. It's my sophomore album. And we're trying to avoid some of the pitfalls of the second album, which is it's like the sophomore
you
slump.
Hear people talk about, for sure.
Was On and On your second record?
That was my slump.
It was your slump?
Yeah.
Because I love On and On.
Oh, thanks. No, I mean it. I just mean if there had to be one, that was my sophomore one.
For sure.
And I think, I don't know.
But was it in your head more? I mean, you go from a 4-track, slipping it to a guy, and then you get a record, and it's very exciting. Yeah. It's a cliche that it takes 10 years to make your first album, and then it takes like 10 months to make your second one.
It's a cliche, but truthism.
It's true,
you know,
right?
It's
true.
It's and then
you start thinking about what other people are going to think.
The first half of On and On for me were the songs that didn't make it onto Brushfire. Like I already had some that were on there.
That's what a comic does.
Yeah.
And then when you start workshopping, I have bits that have been the bits that get cut from 3 specials now. You know what I mean? It's like they'll never get recorded.
Do they end up ever being the great ones for you, though? Or are they always just kind of
once
like
or twice they come back.
Yeah.
They come back. But they're the ones that you know. They're like the base that you cook the soup in.
Yeah, totally. And so on. I mean, it was... So the first one for me, and I'm sure this is the case for a lot of people, is you never dream as many people will hear it as they did. So there's a lot of... you can let things go really easy. I was going from that step of all of my friends kind of digging on it and passing it to their friends to thinking like maybe it'll grow a little bigger than that and I'll get a small fan base. To that first record kind of, you know, as much as we were talking about the little clubs and all that, it was like this thing that, I was looking back, it was so much luck involved of it just kind of kept growing and I kept being in the right place at the right time. And, you know, I think it was also something about like when I get to spend the day with somebody from the record label in that town, they drive me around to the radio stations. I would just really hit it off with those people. Like I didn't ever have this thing. I was lucky to never have this thing of kind of thinking of like industry and artists as being like this separate thing. To me, it was just like a bunch of people out there working. And I'd meet these people and they're usually like, I'd get assigned to the young person who just started working at the label or whatever. And they're always really cool. So we just have a fun day. And I think a lot of it has to do with that, is just like connecting with people. And then you have a fun day hanging out, you go get lunch and, you know, visit some radio stations. And afterwards, you have this friendship and those people really want to work for you. You know, they want to help you take that next step. I always felt like that helped a lot.
Well, also because they they sensed.
Hopefully not.
They sensed what we're talking about, which is the purity of your intent.
Yeah, I think so,
Why
yeah.
are you making music?
And so, yeah.
And when people are drawn to conviction's such a unsexy word for a sexy thing, for like something that's like pure.
Yeah.
And they go, I'm with this guy.
Yeah.
And he's not an asshole.
Yeah.
And he's not just trying to get a briefcase of cocaine. He's
No.
trying to get his music out there.
Yeah. I forget where I was going with it.
I thought you made that point beautifully. Well, you're saying we're talking a little bit about the beginning stages, working with the young guy, and we're talking about the sophomore record.
Oh, the sophomore slow.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
that was it. I think it was that first record. There was it grew to a place I never dreamed it was. As much as I had to do the hard work, it kept growing.
Right.
And it was really wild. Where it went from being, I remember being in New York, about to go on stage, and then somebody from the record label, because New York, a lot of the label people come, and they said, hey, your record just went gold, which means 500,000 copies sold. And I honestly didn't even know. I remember somebody had said, like, shortly before that, it had been like 100,000. So at some point, even though all that, there was all the hard work and playing little clubs, it did kind of this exponential graph all of a sudden on the end of that first record,
Right.
where it started going pretty quick for us. And
What year was that?
that was 2001.
I wonder.
And 2002, by the time it started kind of growing.
I wonder if we could all have used a little relax at
Yeah.
that time. You know, it,
Yeah, sure.
it was a tense time.
Yeah, sure, no, it's true.
And I think we wanted to.
Yeah, that
be-
plays into it too. Like what are
Well,
people
the
waiting
zeitgeist.
for? Yeah,
yeah, the zeitgeist, which is something I'm not really comfortable. I don't think either of us can try to understand.
Yeah,
it.
yeah, sure.
But when I look back, I'm like,
The social
oh, my
consciousness.
comedy kind of struck a chord at a time when it was very popular to be positive.
that's where the luck comes in. Sometimes you know, it's like if what you're offering resonates with people.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, I meet so many artists, so many of my friends, different people that I believe 100% in what they're doing, and it's just somehow it doesn't connect sometimes, and it has to do with that sometimes.
Right.
Those lucky moments. But
it
I think
needs to line up.
it got to this point though where just to finally get to the point of the sophomore slump is like.
Yeah.
I think by the time that was the hardest record for me to put out was the second one for sure, because it was like, whoa, I have way more fans than I ever dreamed I would, and now I got to give them new ideas, and will they
Right.
still believe in this, or is this just a moment? I kind of always expected that. I think I had a healthy thing of going, this is kind of crazy what happened here, and I should just brace myself. This next one might do nothing, you know?
Right.
And
what did it? What is?
Yeah, no, I mean,
I don't know what it did. I bought it,
Yeah, thanks.
and you covered.
did all right,
you
you
covered
know.
your own song on
Yeah.
it. You did. What's it called?
Oh, Rodeo Clowns.
Rodeo
Yeah, yeah, I
Clowns.
covered. That's right. We did
You
on G
played
Love
your own
Special
clown.
Sauce.
And I used to
record
love that G Love song.
That's cool,
And then
yeah.
I found out you wrote it, and that contributed to
That was
why I
fun.
became a fan.
Yeah, Garrett was amazing for me too. He was such a strong supporter through the whole thing.
Yes.
He would always just. But yeah, the second record was interesting because it didn't do commercially or whatever you'd say like as well in the United States, but that was the first one to start breaking everywhere else. Because the first record we only toured the States, and then we might have went to Australia once and New Zealand, and then after that, On was the one that started growing. So it's funny, we go to other places and
They wanna hear
songs
songs
off
from
of that
them.
record are still bigger than the first record
Is
for
that
us. You know?
right?
But so that
What's
was
the big closer?
exciting.
What do you close on?
Oh, Better Together usually. That song Better Together
Sure.
a lot. The end of the night, and you know, we'll close with that. Kind of close like a first set sometimes. It's always fun to do that thing where you walk off stage.
Yeah, the
and then-
fake encore.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, it's a real encore, but
yes and no. I mean, it's kind of like
it's theater.
I've also done shows where you only have a certain amount of time,
So you don't.
and then you don't, and then you get to the end, and then people keep chanting because they want you to come back, and it's
Right.
almost like, wait, he didn't give us the.
Well, I've
extra
seen
deal.
bands that go, we're not going to do the fake thing.
Yeah,
We're just
yeah.
going to keep playing if that's okay.
I usually kind of make a joke out of it, come back and say, I was just kidding. Like, you guys know I was coming back. Come on. I just
course.
need to take a leak or
I just think
something.
it's weird that even like the Rolling Stones go backstage and have a cigarette. I don't know
it
what
is
they're
nice
doing.
to have a moment, actually, because what we do is we come off and the band goes over and we hang out for a minute. And
Yeah.
it's like we get to chill and just talk about the show and like, oh, man, that chord you hit there or whatever. Like, I can't
Yeah.
believe you stood on top of your piano and like you almost ate it. And like we have a minute to just like take a breath in and have a little laugh. And then the tone of the show shifts. It's kind of hard to go from like we usually close that first set with like
big
when I say
one.
big, it's like,
Yeah.
big for us. We're a pretty
Yeah.
small band, but like a more upbeat one. And then we'll bring it all the way down. We'll walk back out and
For sure.
I'll just do. I'll
You
start
get to
doing,
start again.
Yeah, I'll do songs like I'll start improvising a little more.
It's
I'll
like
come
you
back
can't
out.
follow yourself.
Yeah, and you can take
Without a
requests
break.
now. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
and you
yeah.
can just do a whole different thing. And it kind of, so if anything, it just gives you a moment where like all your friends, the tech guys, can like switch out some of the mics and different things for that next part of the show.
Right, right,
And you don't
right.
have to stand there while they're kind of like running around doing that.
I love it. Well, you're out at 12:30, right? We always talk about the meaning of life, so we want to spend some time on
sure,
that.
yeah, of course.
You know, it's so funny. Like you're on the new record, you have the first track talks about the light above the sun.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, there's the light shining onto the earth, but then there's also light going impartially the other way.
Yeah.
The same amount of light.
Yeah, exactly.
And even that is such a trippy kind of zoomed out, literally, zoomed out perspective. And when I hear you writing against some of the delusions, the mass hypnosis that we're all under, if it's like your new song about the paranoia and the me mentality, or what I referenced earlier about consumerism.
Yeah, sure.
Or even the thing about
I like your shirt, no logo.
Exactly, no logo, bro. No logo, bro. But I just see a lot of, like, there's the song in the news where you say, like, why don't newscasters cry when they do the news? That's a very open-hearted thing.
I feel, I listen to that line sometimes, it always cracks me up. I mean, it's like, I still kind of like it, but it's like a very young person
It's
thing.
a young thing to say.
It's like,
I understand.
I try to be kind of true where I'm at in life during that time when I write that record. Well, you can only be true, you try. And so I listen back to those first songs. And I feel happy that I can still, like, as a person, get into those. But a lot of times, like, certain lyrics, I'll kind of think, like, oh, such a 22-year-old version
But here's
of me.
what's funny is when I heard that, I was 20.
Right.
So I was also feeling that.
Yeah.
And then you have the line, there were so many fewer questions when stars were just the holes to heaven.
Yeah.
And I always think about that.
Yeah.
But now you're 42, I'm 38.
Yeah.
Stars aren't the holes to heaven.
Yeah.
There's a light going backwards.
Right. Yeah. right past us.
That's a nut. There's light that goes past the earth.
Yeah.
There's light that goes the other way. There's light that goes up. There is no up. There is no down.
Sure.
We're floating in space.
Yeah.
What is it all about? We can talk about the delusions.
I love that. I love the macrocosm of just pulling out, and I love Joseph Campbell a lot. Yeah? You like Joseph?
I have a framed photo of Joey Campbell's on my wall. I was reading The Power of Myth this morning.
No way.
Because one of the things in my book is about how Joseph Campbell changed my life.
Oh, really? That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
You ever watch the Bill Moyer?
That's how I found him.
To me, it's like I like reading his stuff, but sometimes I'll find myself reading the same paragraph like
over
10
and over
times in a row.
That's me with The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Yeah, totally.
I'll read one page a day.
Yeah.
But there's a transcript of The Power of Myth, which has stuff that it's conversational.
Yeah, because I like his conversational stuff. Anytime I can hear him just speaking. Sometimes his writing's pretty dense, but I love it.
The writing is so dense, but the book, The Power of Myth, is the transcript of the conversation that The Power of Myth TV show was based on.
There's another great
more
one.
Stuff in it.
Something like it's what was it? It's the hero. It has the hero in it as well, but it's more conversations. Just
really?
Written down. It's I forget the name of it right now.
But there's another one that's more of
it's transcripts of him conversational.
But even that, you read 2 pages and you go, "Jeez, this guy just like cut into our basic psychology."
I'm kind of a Campbellist, like it had to be something.
I've never heard that. Campbellist.
Not a cannibal.
Were you raised? No. How were you raised, religiously speaking?
Not, pretty free. No, it was like. It was kind of sweet because there was one time, and I can remember where I was. My mom always laughs at this story. I don't know if she loves it or hates it, but we were riding bikes on this bike path near our house, and I can remember where I was, and it wouldn't matter if I tried to describe it. It's just basically this little spot, like right where cars can turn in next to our road. And I had this, I asked my mom, I can remember we were stopped waiting for a car to turn. It was such a profound moment for me because I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, what is God? Because I think I'd heard about it. I don't know how old I was. I'm pretty bad at trying to frame that stuff, but I was an elementary school kid. And I said, Mom, what is God? And she said, well, and she had a beautiful answer. I just misheard it. She said, God is a being. It's not a human being. And then I was like, I thought she said God is a bean, like a kidney bean, or like, and so like for the rest of my childhood, I pictured God being like Mr. Potato Head shaped, like a big kidney bean.
Yes,
because even then I didn't know like a human being. I thought it was human being.
Of course, human beings.
So I didn't know why that was. But anyway, so like I always pictured God just being this like gigantic bean.
But this, what that reminds me of? Did you see the George Harrison documentary, the one that Martin Scorsese made?
I haven't seen the whole thing. I love,
it's very, very long.
Music. Yeah.
But there's a great part where George Harrison goes like, when I was raised, I can't do the voice.
Right.
He was like,
try.
I could try. It's so fun to do.
That's Paul McCartney.
Yeah, that's McCartney. I can't do
try.
any of them. I can't shit a shitter.
Just give me the line.
He goes, you're raised believing God's a man in the sky,
Right.
and then later you realize he's everything, including a man in the
Yeah,
sky,
sure.
if that's how you want to think of him.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you're thinking of him as a being.
Yeah, he
and
can be.
now
He is a being.
my understanding of consciousness being something that permeates all things,
Sure.
I think God is in a being as well.
Sure. I mean, you look at, like, you cut that thing open and get a microscope out. and he's definitely in there.
Absolutely. How deep are we going
Yeah.
into that being?
Yeah.
There's a lot of magic.
I mean,
all
you can go
beings are
forever in any
magic.
direction you want. So it's like, but anyway, so like that was kind of
You
like,
can go forever in any direction you want,
Yeah.
and you just threw that away. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You can go forever in any
Yeah.
direction you want. It's
straight up.
true.
And so I mean, that was kind of my religious conversation. That was the one that I remember. And then
Yes.
it was like it went for a long time where I don't know if I thought too much about it, and then I think I kind of shaped it just over the years. It was just different experiences. My parents kind of always let us. My dad would talk about it if I wanted to as I got older, and he would share what he thought. He
What
kind
were-
of always had.
what were they?
He was raised Catholic, and he kind of had this one experience. He was like one of those funny guys where he'd tell you things, and then it was always he would leave things a little ambiguous. And so like he sailed to Hawaii when he was 20 years old. He's the kind of guy who, like, most people would do that. They'd write a book about it or something, and he just kind of like he'll share a few stories. But he's 20 years old on a boat by himself, sailed to Hawaii, and the only thing he'll tell you about it is, that's kind of how I learned how to sail. And he just leaves it there, like he doesn't have to brag about it or anything, And so the same
He
thing.
just did
It's
it.
like he tells me this one story about. He's like, I used to be Catholic, and then this one day I was in church, and I was a senior in high school, and all of a sudden everybody started kind of like gathering by the door. And I ran over to look too, and my car was on fire. And then then the police came, and they put me in the back of the police car to like ask me some questions and stuff. And then everybody from the church like went by like waving their finger at him and like mad at him because he was in the back of this police car. And he kind of just realized right there what he kind of thought was this community. He just didn't feel part of it anymore,
Oh, interesting.
And
you can't stand by me through a random car fire.
And he was like, maybe I left a cigarette. And he always claimed, I was like, did you smoke at the time? Do you think you left a cigarette lit, like in the car? And he's like, no, I wouldn't have done that. But he did smoke, so he probably did. And so anyways, not that that's worth like getting your finger waved
Yeah,
at,
for
it's just
sure.
an innocent mistake.
No, I understand. I had a similar thing at my church. My pastor had an affair, and like a third, maybe half of the church left. And I was like, I thought, you know what I mean?
Right.
I get it. It's a leadership position if you want to be like, our leaders have to be better people or whatever.
Right,
but I
right.
was like, I thought the whole jam here was forgiveness.
Yeah, sure.
But it turned out just to be another thing to buy.
Yeah.
another thing to belong to. Like a sports team.
Yeah.
So your dad walked away after his car blew up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most I kind
I'm
of ever
so
heard of that
glad it
story.
wasn't that he was like, and God couldn't protect my car while I was in church.
Yeah,
I was
no.
that's boring. Your dad sounds more interesting than that.
No, he is.
So he was pretty groovy.
Yeah, he was. He moved to Hawaii when he was 20 years old. He raised us over there.
It's amazing.
He kind of would always watch from afar. He was a good dad, and he'd make sure we were safe. But he kind of would let us pretty free range with our thoughts, and pretty like as far as like growing up surfing and being out in big surf alone. He'd be close enough that he could kind of watch out for us, but he would let us make choices that were, fall a little bit on your own sometimes and learn how to get back up.
Well, there's something beautiful, metaphorically speaking, about the ocean. You know, when you put a kid in the ocean, I was an ocean kid.
Yeah.
You can't fully parent in the ocean.
No,
there's
not at
too
all.
much happening.
Yeah.
It's too mysterious. It's too big. It'll fuck your
is.
dad up.
Yeah.
Like it'll fuck both of you up.
Oh, yeah.
But you put a kid in the ocean. There's something kind of symbolic and ancient about that.
Well, that's the baptism and everything.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. Water is this mysterious, but it can kill you and it can keep you alive.
Yeah, the Carl Jung is like the oceanic experience, of like the realization that all things are connected. And
Right. Well,
Yeah,
whenever I'm trying to think of that, I'm like, we're like waves. That's
Yeah.
I probably mention that every third episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
Where it's like our lives are like waves. We're part of everything, but we're experiencing it going like, I'm a wave.
Yeah.
And everything is a wave.
Yeah.
And that's why surfing is beautiful. It's one of those ways to interact with a wave when sound is a wave,
Yeah,
light is a
sure.
particle in a wave, obviously. But there's waves in all things. And I heard a surfer say in a documentary, he goes, ocean waves are the only waves that you can directly play with.
Right.
And there's something very natural about them.
Yeah, that's true. Sound waves, I guess you can kind of play with them too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But you can't see them.
No, cannot.
But where are you at now? I mean,
now I'm very open-minded. I just kind of, I think you said
why
it
did
nice.
Campbell appeal? Sorry to interrupt. Campbell appealed to me because I was trying to reconcile a mythology I was raised with as literally true.
Yeah.
And then I found him, and he said he rescued those stories from me.
Well, go on. Son.
But if you weren't raised with those, you didn't have that burden. So why were you?
I think what appealed to me about Campbell is that he wasn't trying to prove anybody wrong. He was trying to prove everybody right.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, I think he
Fucking
even
A.
said at one time, he was like, difference between like most, like he's like, I'm not an anthropologist because like what they're trying to do is show the difference in different people around the world. I'm trying to show the similarities.
Yeah.
You know, like how when people have a certain metaphor that's important to them, how does that metaphor link? Like how are these stories all the same? You know,
He's
and
inclusive.
So he's really trying to connect all people by showing the differences and like how those differences connect. And that's what I loved about Joseph Campbell. And he said something really powerful about metaphors. He was like, have you ever heard this story where he goes on a
The radio show?
Yeah, I love that one.
This is in my book.
Yeah, oh, cool.
I retell it in the book. It's
Good.
his story,
You
but I
should.
go,
That's
this
such a-
blew my mind.
Yeah.
But please you tell it because I've heard it.
It's great. You know, he goes on there with good intentions, and this kid starts kind of like tearing straight into him right off the bat. He's like, you say God is a metaphor, so you're saying God is a lie. And he's like, no, God's not a lie. I'm saying God's a metaphor. A metaphor is like a really powerful thing, you know. And he's like, well, you know, you can't say God is a metaphor, and it's true, you know. And he's like, listen, it sounds to me. He starts getting a little annoyed, and I love the way he tells it. He's such a kind person.
He tries to let it go.
He's like, I felt really bad about what I did next, but this kid was being relentless. So he's like, look, kid, he's like, give me a metaphor. And the kid's like, I'm not gonna. He's like, just give me like your example metaphor. And he's like, the boy runs fast like a deer. And he's like, that's an analogy.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not like a deer. The boy is the deer.
Yeah.
That's a metaphor.
Yeah.
And he's like, God is this.
Right.
To different people. So it's like your metaphor can be as powerful as you want it to be. So whatever God is to you, that's what it is to you.
But totally. Because it was something that was beyond language. We needed something better than language to even touch it. Mm-hmm. So metaphor is the only way we can talk about God. Yeah. We can talk about love and all these different things.
Because I love all the stories of different religions. I love I like reading all that stuff. And there's like the stories of Christ, like we were talking before. It's like I always tell my kids, like, these are some of the most beautiful stories. You should know them all. You know, it's like these are like stories to learn by, and it's really important. And like they'll ask me, was it a real person? And I say, yeah. And I want them to be able to learn and about other religions too, and figure out whatever they want. But I never try to ever tear any religion down or say it's not true, because it's true
that's
to
a Campbell
people.
thing.
You know?
He goes, every religion is true in its own metaphorical way, and then he talks about the blend between literally true and metaphorically true. Sometimes you see Campbell tiptoeing into it because he'll say, the scriptures say that Jesus ascended into heaven,
right.
and that means he went up into the sky.
Right.
And he goes, but we know with science that there is no place like you can't get there. Like he kind of breaks down that like even if he took off into the sky, I don't know if he's literally going to a place. In fact, he would say, you're not literally going to a place, but he's touching a place that Jesus did.
Right.
And that's how we tell the story.
Yeah.
So Jesus did touch that infinite place in reality. And he kind of found a way to merge with truth in a way that we can't even understand. And the way we try to understand it is saying he died and went up into the clouds.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when I get excited, is whenever I catch Campbell dabbling in literalism.
Sure.
What was true? Yes, there was a historical Jesus, and there are people that do find ways to become truth.
Yeah.
And that's very intoxicating to us. Then we write these stories and these metaphors to help us understand.
Yeah, no, somebody else explained to me, it's like it's all part of the same wheel, and each of the spokes is like a different way to get to God.
Yes.
It's right in the center of it.
Right.
You ever check out pantheism, I guess?
Well, I know pantheism is kind of what we're talking about, the belief that God's in a being, right?
It's like all is God is like the thing, it's like basically is everything is God. And there's like, a friend of mine was like, you should check that out. It sounds like that's what you're talking about. And so I checked it out one time, and there was this one quote that stuck with me that I really liked that I found on this website that was, divinity does not transcend reality. Or at least divinity does not have to transcend reality. Like everything we see, like how, you watch these clouds shifting and changing shapes, and you see a wave. We've talked a lot about waves, but I'll see waves and I'll look at them, and it's like a miracle to me.
Of course.
It's like,
it's not that the truth isn't being said to you, it's that you can't hear it.
Yeah, I mean, you can find that divinity in everything around us every morning when you wake up.
That's
night,
right. That's right. And there is something about waves And
Yeah.
the first time I went surfing, Rob Bell, do you know Rob Bell? I think you'd love him. Anyway, he and I used to surf all the time. And seeing the backs of waves, it's almost
Yeah.
like seeing a secret. It's
Right.
like people never see the backs
That's
of
cool,
waves.
yeah.
And you're just sitting. That was my favorite part of surfing. It's not getting up and surfing. It was waiting for waves. I like that so much more. But one time we were paddleboarding and a whale went
You
right
can come
under
surfing
us.
with me anytime.
I'm coming.
I'll get all the waves. you look at
I
them.
won't. I'll just be the guy making jokes.
Yeah.
I will not steal any of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But a whale went underneath our paddleboards,
Oh,
like
wow.
right under
Really?
us.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I couldn't tell you one thing about it.
Right.
And that's what I feel like metaphors are for. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It felt like a loud sound.
Yeah.
But there was no sound.
Right.
It wasn't literally sound. It felt like a sound.
Right. It was so magnificent and so huge.
That's the only way I can even begin. Like I saw something covered in barnacles. It was green and
Wow,
gray.
amazing.
And it went up right so close to me.
I've been close to it too, man. It will make you feel small, huh? Like being next to a whale.
And the only way I can convey it to you is with a story.
Yeah.
It was like this, and then
Yeah,
when
yeah,
we
yeah,
get
right.
into, that's an analogy obviously, but
Right.
if you get into like a real thick metaphor, I can really get you lost in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
whale that was a sound.
Yeah. No, it's true.
That was infinite. So what about, it's kind of a crude way to get into it, and we're almost out of time. What about death?
Yeah.
Do you think we go around and around? Does it go
I
on
think
and on?
I think soil compost. I think it's like compost. That's like I don't know. I like gardening a lot, and so
Well, that's
in this-
Anne Lamott. She's like, every mystery of the universe is in the garden.
It is though, and it's like same with surfing. I feel really fortunate to have time to. That's like nowadays with kids, it's like if I can get 40 minutes to get out there and just get a few waves, it's nice. But I mean, as a kid growing up, I'd spend hours, and if I didn't have too much homework, I'd come home from school and I'd be in the ocean for 4 hours sometimes, and. It's a really peaceful place to be able to spend time, and it's
And you're grounded.
it's like a time to meditate in a way. But then
Yeah,
there's something
sure.
different. Like in the garden, you can sort of look at all these different metaphors or analogies or whatever you want to call them.
Well, that's what Campbell talks about. The resurrection metaphor is a result of agriculture.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the
In a
seed
lot of
getting
cultures,
buried
yeah.
and growing back
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and it's so to me, that's the best sense I can make of it. It's like I love.
But you feel that
I
in
love
your garden.
compost. Actually, it sounds like such a dorky thing. I love compost.
Yeah.
But we do all of our food scraps in this little bin in our counter, and then I take that out, and it's like. It's funny because my wife and I share a lot of responsibilities, but the compost is all mine. She doesn't, she's really into the idea of it, but it's always like, honey, the compost is full. It's
Yeah.
like one of those things she never does. Sorry, babe. But I'd never even ask her to because like that little trip out to this spot where we have our compost area because I got like 2 different kinds. I got the one where I open this thing up and I'll put. First I'll walk over here and I'll put all the stuff the worms like. So we do the vermicomposting, which worms don't really like orange peels and they don't really like onions and garlic. So I kind of go through it and I'll give the worms the banana peels, and I'll give them the like whatever the eggplant and stuff, and I'll give them all the little. They'd only like a certain amount. You put too much, you start getting other kind of bugs. So my point is like you get the really, really good compost from these worms, and you got to kind of take care of them. And then the other one, I just go over and dump all the rest, and then I take some of the mulch that I have, a big pile of mulch that you kind of like it, where it's carbon and brown, and I'll put that on top, and I make the layers. So this is like my little area that I go out and I spend a little time composting every day, and
Wow.
then in a few months and different times for different batches, it's like I'll get this stuff that like when I add this, I haven't bought soil in 10 years. It's like I only make my own, and so then you go and you add this stuff to the garden, and then you watch the difference where like all of a sudden all the plants just start going, thank you, and they start sprouting. And so I don't know, it's like giving back, and it's like this energy that came from a living thing, this fruit or
Right.
vegetable, and then it's gone. My kid ate it, it's like the banana's gone, but the peel's still there, and you put it in and you watch as you start to turn it, and then that kind of disappears slowly, decomposes back into this thing that when you have this thing, which is now your compost, it's like you put it back into the garden and it all starts over. And so, that's the only thing I can kind of
But it's a
hope.
clue from the universe.
I
It's
think
not
so.
something that
Yeah,
you made
yeah.
up.
I think so. It's
Well-
like you go back in and like and until you really think that is the truth, which I kind of think that's the truth, once you see that, like the interconnectedness, I didn't quite say,
No,
interconnectedness.
yeah,
how
no,
do
you
say?
nailed it.
Of all things, it's like, how can you avoid that when it's like we just all become compost and it's like give energy for like new life. So when you see a new baby coming into the world, who knows? Like your grandpa might have been part of that baby. Or,
Right,
I don't know.
right.
I'm a
There
hippie.
You don't realize what a safe space you're in. I mean, that's not
Yeah,
even
good,
that
good.
far out.
All right, good.
But do you identify as your mind, or do you think of yourself as a spirit?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever really decided that. So I don't know. I think you get a time with your mind, I guess, if I had to think about it. I'm going to say an answer, and then I'm going to go, like, later today, be like, oh, wrong answer.
No,
I go the
please
other
don't
way. No,
feel
I
that
just
way.
get, I don't know, yeah.
Don't feel on the spot
I feel
either.
we are people, you know, we were given that time, and we have our own thoughts and all that, but we're very affected by our parents as we grow up. Everybody, I mean, you know, everybody gives you the influence as you grow up. My dad passed away a while ago, and, like, there's so many things I see my brothers do now, and myself, that I'll just be like, wow.
That's him.
We really are, like, it's not just, we're not just saying it to comfort ourselves, like, we are him, you know. And I'll tell my kids that. It's like, that's the beauty of life. It's like, when I go, you guys are me. It's like everything I'm getting, you guys are me and Mom. It's like everything we tell you guys, it's like slowly you're becoming us.
Right.
And it's, anyways.
No, that's very interesting. I think that's beautiful. What a great answer. I'm never going to forget that compost answer. I love that compost answer.
I got to give half of that to my friend Zach, the piano player.
Nope.
We always talk about that. Just mine. Okay, sorry.
That was 100% you.
Okay.
Sorry, Zach.
You can use it too, Zach.
That was not you. Let me look here. I'm going to make sure we didn't get to talk about mushrooms. Have you taken mushrooms? You don't want to talk about it. You're a musician, man. You're allowed to take mushrooms.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're amazing.
Doesn't that... Well, we don't really have time.
No, I don't take them all the time.
You know...
It's been a long time.
Man, we could talk about anything, but maybe we'll talk again another time.
That'd be
in
great.
interest of your time, it's almost 12:30 here. Can you just tell me the time, one of the times, that you've laughed really, really hard? It doesn't have to be a good story.
Yeah.
It can just be you and your brothers farted. It doesn't matter.
Well, a fart, I mean, it's hard to beat a fart when
It's
you're young.
hard
you know?
to beat a
It's like, I do remember this one time that in Spanish class where my friend Adam learned, I forget now if it was him or me that farted, but we were sitting next to each other, and one of us farted, and we just started laughing so hard, and it was one of those ones where you knew you shouldn't be laughing, but you can't, then it makes it worse, and you can't stop, and then the teacher made us
Church
go sit
laugh.
out. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it must
Where
be.
you're not supposed to laugh.
Because then we had to go
So
sit
much
outside,
better.
and she kept coming out, be like, are you guys ready? And then we just start laughing again. We just had to sit outside the whole class. That was one, but there was a church laugh too when I went and saw these Gregorian monks one time come out, and they took so long, and it was so quiet, and it was this beautiful theater, and everybody was, I was really excited to hear what these things, it was like these telescopic instruments, they just kept growing, and they became these long horns, and I was like, whoa, it's going to be majestic, you know? And then it just, when they started blowing it, it was like, again, a fart joke.
No.
But me and my friend, I was a freshman in college, and we had to go to this thing it was an ethnomusicologist class, whatever you call it. It's like world music. And so it's one of the things you had to go to a certain amount of performances, and this is at Campbell Hall, 10,000, whatever, I don't know how many people, 2,000 people, and everybody's in suits and stuff. It's like mostly adults and like a couple of freshmen that have to take this class. And we're sitting there, and I looked at my friend, and then he looked at me, and I was like shaking my head, like, don't do it. And both of us just...
Oh,
and then
God.
the lady next to us said, leave now. You guys got to get out of here. And we had to leave.
My
So
God.
I felt so bad.
You shouldn't. They're doing it for laughs.
I mean,
They're like, get the fart horn.
it was,
Henry, we took the vow of playing the fart horn once for the children.
oh my God.
Because you expected it to be like,
I'm sweating right now telling that story because I remember the way it felt in there.
you think it's going to be deep and majestic.
Oh, well, I had so much respect for these guys, and like I really didn't want to be laughing at all, and that's what made the
course.
laugh so much harder and so
course.
much harder to stop.
Isn't that funny?
Oh.
A world where we can just laugh isn't as good as a world where we're not supposed to laugh.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's like I think that's a deep truth. Do you have your guitar?
I brought it with me.
You want to play it?
Yeah.
Would you mind? I would love it. Maybe something. Well, what do you want to play?
I want to play You Willie Got Me Stoned and Took All My Money.
Yes.
Is that all right?
I would love to hear that. And the record is out now. It's amazing. I listened to it on the ride over and this week, ever since I knew you were coming on. And I felt dumb for not having listened to it earlier.
Oh, no, that's all right. I just watched your show last night.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly it.
We're even.
That's exactly it. And what is the record called, just so people can find it?
The record's called All the Light Above It, too.
Wait, that's like the Sunline.
That's why
I didn't know that was the name of the record because I was like, that's the line that tripped me out.
That's the theme of the album in my mind. You know, it's like I put all the songs down. Do you need to end at a certain time for your show, or is it?
No, I'm
cool.
getting
We're
out of
fine
here
then.
for you.
Okay, no worries. And so, yeah, to me, that's the theme of the record is like you try your best to explain things to your kids, and at some point you just have to be like, you know what? I don't know everything, kids. You try to act like the dad who's got it all figured out.
Of course.
That's kind of where I'm at in life, and like the perspective I'm coming from right now is like, how do I explain this stuff to my kids? And then I try to put them in songs, you know, and in the end, like that's the way the songs felt to me. It's like I'm trying to share with you the way I feel about things, but in the end, it's like we're just part of this multiverse that's like expanding and contracting around other universes, and who knows what the true meaning of any of this is.
I
and
wish
it's
my
like,
dad had said that.
this light is shining that way and this way, like you were talking about before. It's going right
Yes.
past us, and
Yes.
so I didn't want it to sound like a sequel. All the Light Above It 2. I realized afterwards it kind of sounds like there was a part 1, but anyways, it meant
Well,
to
Most
be
Def
like,
has a record called All the Light Above It. So
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
oh my God, you almost gave me a heart attack. I'm sure he already hates me. No,
And you're
we
the-
almost collaborated one time. We were like sending a track back and forth. It didn't work out.
No
but,
way.
I really love Most Def's music.
Me too.
He's amazing. Let me just turn this thing over.
Please.
Take out. This is like a sonic condom. This is the called the feedback buster.
Is that for live shows?
Yeah, so that you don't get the feedback loop going when you have a band playing with you.
Okay.
But my sound guy calls it the sonic condom.
Tampons in the water camera.
All right, let's see if I can remember all the lyrics here.
No one will know if you don't.
That's this wrong chord right off the bat. Willie got me stoned and took all my money. I was $50 up and then my mind went funny. It didn't really help that I didn't know the rules of the game. Probably didn't help that I couldn't remember my name. After Willie got me stoned and took all my cash. One high-low split and then he kicked my ass. He gave me knuckles across the table, then my mind went blurry. Just like a puff of smoke, all my cash went up in a hurry. After Willie got me stoned, took me for everything I had. I had to walk home, I had no money for a cab. I didn't have the heart to ask anybody for a ride. Nobody in the room seemed any condition to drive. After Willie got a stone and took away my mind. Sent me back to the kiddie table, he took away my pride. Now I'm sitting here with my band again, just feeling like a joker. Just thinking about how bad I really suck at playing poker. And thinking about my pockets, and was Willie the one who broke them? Would I really take a toke if they rolled Willie up and they smoked him? Hell yes I would, and I know it might sound funny, but Willie got me stoned and took all of my. Willie got me stoned and took all my money. Willie got me stoned and took all my money. Hell yes I would, and I know it might sound funny, but Willie got me stoned and took all of my money. There you go.
That's amazing. And true.
And true, yeah. It was a crazy night. It was a funny night too, because like it was after a music festival, so it was like, you know, those moments where you see like everybody on the stage put their arms around each other's shoulders and they start waving at the crowd, and they're kind of doing like a big together bow.
Yeah.
And you want to think like when you see them talking, they're like, "That was the best show I think I've ever had." Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. It was like we were in that, and I was lucky enough to be next to Willie, and he leaned over to me. He's like, "Hey, want to go back to my house and play some poker?" I was like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." And so, anyways, it ended up being like it was like Ben Harper and Jackson Brown and Willie Nelson and like all these musicians and stuff. It was a really funny night.
Wow.
And there was like there's so many of us that there was like two tables, one for the guys that actually knew how to play poker, and then one for the guys that didn't. And I definitely was one of those guys. But at one point, Willie was like, "Hey Jack, come on over here." We know each other, pretty well at this point. I've done some shows with him and stuff, and so he like called me over to this table, and I was like not ready. And it was you know, like the song explains, there was like a lot of herb, and so I was like really lost with my thoughts, and then all of a sudden I'm there, and I had some money, not a whole lot, but I had like enough to stay in for a few rounds, and it just kept dwindling. And then at one point I was just thinking I just got to get through this, and this guy next to me at one point like leaned over and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, Willie never folds." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, I didn't even know what that meant, you know, really. And I was like, "Okay." And so I was like really intimidated. And then all of a sudden at one point I just kind of kept putting my cards down. And I looked and everybody started like kind of clapping and stuff, and then like pat me on the back. And then I looked over and Willie's like leaning across the table with his knuckles out. And I'm like, "What's going on?" I gave Willie knuckles, and then everybody started like putting half the pot over to me. And all of a sudden I was like back in. I had all this cash again. So I guess it was called a high-low split.
Oh,
was
you
like,
were the low.
I was the low. And I wasn't even shooting for it. I was just putting them up on the table.
You played badly enough to win.
I did.
That's
I did
incredible.
for one round.
That's incredible.
And that was it.
Well, thanks, man. You feel good?
Feel great. How you feeling?
I feel fantastic.
Right on.
I
Thanks for
just
having
want
me.
to check in. Yeah, please. It was an honor to have you. Been a fan for many, many years.
Likewise.
Wish
well,
you success.
For many days now.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I'm
thank you
gonna
for
be a fan
watching
for
the
many
show.
years. I'm excited.
I appreciate that. And
congratulations on the
thanks,
the
man.
next series.
And you too on everything.
Yeah.
On living what I'm going to continue to imagine is an incredible life. If that's okay.
Well, all these lives are incredible, so we're lucky to have them, aren't we?
That's true. We always have the guests say the catchphrase at the end, which is "Keep it crispy." I'd be honored if you'd say "Keep it crispy."
Keep it crispy.
I don't know why I loved it more than usual. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
My team 900 shoes 850. I'm so crispy, I'm so crispy. My ice game make you haters wanna get me. Keep so crispy, I'm so crispy.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.
Press? Are you on a radio tour?
We're going straight into it, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Which is good. A lot of times you get there and you chat and you give them all your best stuff, and then all of a sudden the interview starts.
You got to record.
We can't start
I mean,
over.
that's got to be a principle of music as well. It's the riffs before you begin.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, we can get into that. Yeah. I mean, so much times, like, right when you push record, you're like, oh, damn.
It goes away.
All that good stuff is gone already.
I know directors that don't say action. They say whenever you're ready. They
Right.
just go like, go into it.
Yeah.
Like, you need something that we know that the cameras are rolling.
Yeah.
But like
Or maybe it's better you don't, though. I mean, even though they're rolling
Right?
sometimes.
Well, that's why you're a documentarian. That's why documentaries are so amazing.
Yeah.
Is because and I know for a fact that they do tricks where they're like, the camera's not working or whatever. You know what I mean? Not to trick people into giving something they don't want to give away.
Can I just start by admitting I'm all nervous now because before yesterday I had never seen your show or anything, and then so you were asking if I'm doing press, and then so I was like, I'm kind of on this little run where we're running around doing little things, and so then I was like, hey, what's this deal I got to do tomorrow? And they were like, oh, this guy Pete Holmes. He has a show called Crashing. You should check it out. It's real funny. My friend Josh and Emmett that was just there.
Yeah.
So I'm tired right now because last night I stayed up like all night binge watching Crashing.
No way.
So now I'm like starstruck and all nervous.
That's amazing.
That show is amazing.
Hey, that's
like
incredible.
the funniest show I've ever seen.
No way.
I feel bad because I've watched so many episodes without my wife, and she hates when I watch stuff like without her. If she wants to,
Yes.
she likes when I watch stuff she doesn't like because
Right.
it's like get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
But
for
like
sure.
I know she'll love this the whole series. So
Oh,
now
man.
I'm gonna have to watch like episodes 1 through 5 again just so
Oh
she
my
can catch
God,
up.
we got to get a song.
Yeah.
Season 2,
All
Jack
right.
Johnson.
Dude, I'm in.
I love the soundtrack you did
in.
for Curious George. Not that it would be
right
the
on.
same way.
No,
I heard
wouldn't
someone
give you that.
Look, banana pancakes would apply to a lot of these,
Sure.
a lot of the moments.
Yeah, I
Pete
guess
is
the
kind of a
metaphors.
curious.
Yeah.
He is kind of a big birdie kind of guy.
He
That's
is,
like what my
definitely.
character is.
Double entendres too. There.
That I'm so tall. You mean?
No, just meaning some of the banana pancakes.
Oh, sure.
September 30th at 10 p.m. I also want to give a shout out to the Pete's Picks. We know the Pete's Picks. We love the Pete's Picks. I've been taking this MCT oil now in my tea in the morning, and it's really a game changer. That's why it's a Pete's Pick. It's made by our friends at Onnit, who also make Alpha Brain. And what MCT oil is, it's a coconut-based oil, which is medium chain triglycerides. I remember I talked about this stuff with Mark Paul Gosselaar when he was on the podcast, and here I am doing it all these years later. Because this is a vegan solution. It's not like people who put butter in their coffee, but it's 100% coconut sourced. It takes that fat and gives you something that sustains your appetite. I snack less. I eat less. I feel fulfilled. I feel happy. And it definitely gives my brain an extra, like, kind of reserve tank of fuel for creativity and focus, which is always what I'm looking for. It has a positive effect on your leptin receptors, which assist in keeping you feeling full and satisfied. And anybody that gets jittery from caffeine, such as myself, it really smooths that out and gives you a steady supply of energy throughout the day. I'm currently editing Crashing. It's taking a lot of mental and physical energy, and it's wonderful to have this on my side. In fact, I've been joking that I haven't been exercising very much. Since I've been taking MCT oil, I've been feeling more energy, and as a result, I have been exercising, going on hikes and whatnot more. So I think this is a wonderful product. That's why it's a Pete's Pick. If you want to try it, it's the same way you try Alpha Brain, which is onnit.com/weird, and you'll get 10% off. Tastes great, feels great, give it a try. Also, while you're there, pick up some Alpha Brain. This is another product that I swear by. I always have at least 4 or 5 Alpha Brains in my pocket because it's like fish food for Monogin. It's all earth-grown ingredients, helps with memory, concentration, focus. anytime I have to do a podcast, including the one you're about to listen to, anytime I'm writing a script, anytime I'm doing. It's simple and straightforward. All you have to do is complete a questionnaire, and a dedicated personal stylist will handpick pieces specifically for you. Then, once you've seen your selections, you have 48 hours to make any changes or even cancel altogether. You're in total control, and you only pay for the clothes you keep. Plus, you have the option of receiving clothes once every 1, 2, or 3 months. It's all up to you. And because Bombfell is on your side, they don't make money if you don't find something you want to keep. I think that's awesome. I think that's really nice. They keep themselves accountable. Like I said, you sign up. It's fun. I didn't expect it to be fun, but it's fun to click around, kind of almost like taking a personality survey, but for clothing, in a fun way, in an easy way, and then they send you stuff that honestly I was surprised at how on the money they were. Best of all, we've negotiated with Bombfell to get our listeners a special offer of $25 off your first purchase when you go to bombfell.com/weird. So if you're tired of shopping for clothes the regular way, you want a little help looking a little bit better or a lot better, go to Bombfell, BOMBFELL.com/weird. Open and close. I like that. Open and close. Oh, you get it? You say it, Val.
Open and close?
Clothes.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, see?
Okay, I didn't get it.
I was reading it, so I got it, and I wanted to make sure you got it. And now that we both got it, as my mom says, we're going to hold on to it. Hope to see you October 19th. Or December 7th at Largo for stand-up. Also, November 9th. It would be great if a lot of weirdos came out. I would love to hear what you guys think about the book that I'm working on. And in the meantime, enjoy Jack Johnson, who, no surprise here, is a delight. Is a delight. Get into it. Val?
Get into it.
ZipRecruiter?
ZipRecruiter.
And in case you're wondering, yes, the air conditioner is broken.
Oh, shit. I picked the wrong day.
What are you doing? I it's funny because I'm excited to talk to you, but I don't know what your life is like. Are you busy promoting, doing
stand-up, anything that involves my brain. I'm taking 3 Alpha Brain about 15 minutes before. It's not a stimulant. It's not like coffee. It doesn't give you like a jolt of jittery energy. It just gives your brain some food to run on, and I swear by it. If you want to try MCT oil or Alpha Brain, like I said, on it, ONNIT.com/weird. The other product that I take most days is called Charlotte's Web Hemp Oil. This is derived from the hemp plant, but it is CBD, not THC, which means it is not psychoactive. It doesn't get you stoned. It's something that you can read on, you can work on. It just is a wonderful anxiety reducer for me. Helps with headaches, aches, and pains. As I always say, stuck in a middle seat on an airplane, it's wonderful to know that I have this in my bag. It's legal in all 50 states. Like I said, it's made from hemp, but it's not the same thing as marijuana. What am I, your dad? Smoking marijuana. It just gives me a healthy, happy glow that I swear by. A little bit quicker to laugh, a little bit quicker to smile. Just helps me lighten up, and as a result, it makes me drink less, a little bit healthier. Great for your brain, great for your body. If you want to try it, CBD oil, this is the only hemp oil that's grown for human consumption. Any other hemp oil you get, it's my understanding, might have been made for a belt or oil. This is only for human consumption by our friends the Stanley Brothers, who did a wonderful episode of this very podcast. If you want to try it, go to cwhemp.com/weird and use promo code KeepItCrispy, and you'll get 10% off. I like the Everyday Advanced or the Everyday Plus. Mint chocolate is the flavor of preference for me. We have a new sponsor, Bombfell. I know this is true for most guys. Shopping for clothes can be a total pain, shopping in general. But Bombfell is an easier way for men to get better clothes. I just signed up for this. It was fun, it was easy, and the clothes are wonderful. It's an online personal styling service that helps men find the right clothes for them.
Now entering Nerdist.com.
You made it weird, you made it weird, you made it weird, oh yeah. You made it weird, you made it weird, yes you did. You made it weird, oh yeah.
You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes.
What's happening, weirdos? How cool is this? Jack Johnson came into the studio to make it weird, and he was wonderful. So let's get to it. you know this part, as quickly as possible. I do want to say I have some live stand-up dates coming up in Los Angeles at Largo, October 19th. Wait, is it past October 19th? No. October 19th. I don't know what month it is. October 19th, I'm going to be there doing stand-up with some wonderful guests. Always a great lineup. November 9th, I'm going to be doing a special show called Pete is Writing a Book, where I will be workshopping and reading sections of the book that I've been working on for the past couple years about spirituality. It's funny. It's a memoir. It will be entertaining and fun, and there'll be guests on that as well. And then December 7th will be another stand-up show at Largo. For tickets to those, go to largo-la.com. Hope to see you out. We have some new sponsors for this show. I want to thank our sponsors. One of them, this is All in the Family. This is HBO. It's the new show, Felipe Esparza. Translate this. I don't know if you know this, but best known for having a raw and real sensibility that's relatable to audiences everywhere, comedian Felipe Esperanza stars in his first HBO comedy special, Translate This. It's an uproarious hour of stand-up comedy featuring unconventional riffs on the immigrant experience and his everyday battles in his life. Shares stories about translating for his parents as a kid, how his father got his family from the U.S. from Mexico, and becoming a father himself while still in high school. All performed in English with Spanish peppered throughout. So please watch Translate This on HBO and HBO Latino Saturday,